Hello and welcome into my latest live broadcast. My name is CareyHolzman and this is
Mitch Morrison.
Mitch, the man Morrison. Look, see, the camera's set just right for somebody of my height. How you been, Mitch?
Been good, good. Spent a couple of weeks up in Vail, Colorado, visiting one of my two brothers, and then I got down to Denver, Colorado, and saw my baby brother, and then I got the chance to visit my 95-year-old father for a little bit.
Yeah, how's he doing?
Good, good, yeah.
So you had a good visit?
Yeah.
Right on.
Finally convinced him that he should be using a walker, so vanity was kind of preventing him, and I'm like, Father, it's time.
Yeah, the fact that he still cares about that at 95 years old.
At 95. So.
What does that say about human psychology?
Yep.
And the power of peer pressure.
Yeah.
Couple of contributions. Of course, kicking us off is Peter Laycock with a 50-pound contribution. He says, good evening, Carey and Mitch and everyone in the chat from Edinburgh in Bonnie, Scotland. Hey, Peter. Thank you so much for your continued support.
Peter, what's the weather there? Because it's got to be...
Yeah, he normally tells us.
Yeah, because it's got to be, 100 and something here today.
I think it's already 105.
Yeah.
It's been 111 this week. Rice Star Man contributes $10. He goes, hello, my normal admission fee. Right on. Thank you for that. We appreciate your support. And yeah, we get a bunch of people saying good evening or hello, good afternoon. It's afternoon here, might be evening or morning where you're watching. Mike McRae joins us from Aberdeen, Scotland. I have a disproportionate number of viewers in the country of Scotland. I kind of wonder if I go there if I'd be recognized. Of course, I wouldn't be able to understand him.
As a leprechaun? No, all right.
I think that's Irish.
Oh, yeah. Scottish. Me Lucky Charms, all right.
I wanted to see, let's just type in Google.
Okay.
Temperature.
In Phoenix.
Edinburgh. 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Almost half of what it is here.
Yeah, look at that humidity though, 60%.
That's not terrible.
No.
In Phoenix, 106.
8% humidity.
But it's still going up. It's only 1 o'clock. So.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Friday, and this is your last Friday here for a little while.
That it is.
You're getting excited for your...
Yeah. Chad, I'm heading off Monday to Singapore and Kuala Lumpur, and then I'll spend a month in the Philippines and then a month in Vietnam, and if my money holds out, I maybe pop back over to Thailand. I spent a month over there prior to COVID hitting and liked it. So yeah, but I'm not looking forward to my 22-hour flight, which is...
Better you than me.
Yeah, which is Phoenix to Dallas, Dallas to Tokyo, that's 13 hours. Then I got a 90-minute...
What's Phoenix to Dallas, 2 hours?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So then Dallas to Tokyo, that's 13. Then I got a little hour or 90-minute wait. And then Tokyo back to Singapore, that's 8. So I leave Phoenix, Arizona Monday at 6 a.m. and I get into Singapore Wednesday at 12:15 a.m.
It's a 3-day trip.
Yeah, so basically. But you don't need a pre-COVID test anymore because all the legs are on American. I'm flying masks are optional. And walking around in these countries, you don't need to wear a mask. So that was kind of what was holding me back. And so...
But hopefully that won't change while you're there.
Yeah, that's true. So, who knows? They might ask for a saliva test.
Luke Grania says it's 85 degrees Fahrenheit and breezy here in northern Vermont.
Yeah.
Brad Rebel says have a safe and fun trip. They want to know if you're going to be vlogging. You don't vlog, though.
No, but I can, that weird looking hotel in Singapore with the 3 kind of monoliths and the thing on the top of it. With the swimming pool. When I'm there, I'll take us, video and send it to Carey where he can do the chat. I'm not staying there because it was a little, like $500 a night, and I'm like, it's a little. But I think you can pay to swim in that pool up there with the glass bottom, which freaks a lot of people out. But I mean, it's, So,
that building is called...
I forget, But Singapore, folks, cleanest city in the world. You must be careful, because if you're using a public
Marina Bay Sands.
If you're using a public restroom and they catch you not flushing, they'll ticket you. So
how do they catch you not flushing?
I don't know, but that's something that
like, it was there when I got here.
That was something.
That wasn't me.
That was something I read. And no chewing gum allowed, which I thought, so you'll never see people chewing gum or gum wadded up on sidewalks, because
interesting.
No gum allowed, chewing gum.
All right. What do you think? Should we get to work?
Okay. Got a budget build? Yes?
Yeah, I'm trying to get through. I bought a bunch of these B560 HD3 motherboards because they were $89.99. I bought a case.
Okay.
And one of my customers called me. They need 4 more computers, and they want something that's sort of mid-tier. They don't want anything they want to have to replace anytime soon. i3s are going to be too low. They're not interested in anything AMD. Everything I built for them uses the Corsair 200R. And
does that come with Wi-Fi on it, or do you have to get a dongle or something like that?
We don't normally put Wi-Fi in desktops.
Okay.
Usually a desktop stays in one location. And if you want to add Wi-Fi to it, it's really no big deal to plug in a USB Wi-Fi adapter, or you can get a PCIe add-in card, if you want to open the computer and install it. The other thing is when you do built-in Wi-Fi, it's impossible really to upgrade it. Okay. Essentially what you would have to do is disable the onboard Wi-Fi and then use a USB or add-in card. But the problem with the add-in card is they remove a slot when they give you Wi-Fi. Right. Every additional thing takes a channel in each of those slots. So each of those slots is like a channel, let's just say, to make it simple. So if one of those slots could be used for Wi-Fi, but you already got Wi-Fi, then you lose that channel. So typically, where you're going to see built-in Wi-Fi are on boards where space is of a So mini ITX boards universally have Wi-Fi. Micro ATX boards is very, very common on a micro ATX board. And then on full-size ATX board, it's pretty uncommon, but towards the higher end, you will see that it is available. And again, the other concern I have is not only is it not easily upgradable, but the added expense. If you look at, say, a board with the Wi-Fi in the same version of the board from the same manufacturer without the Wi-Fi, can be a $60 price difference when a Wi-Fi card could cost you half of that. Right? And it's fully serviceable. Right. So to each his own, but generally speaking, Wi-Fi is for portable devices, cell phones, tablets, laptops.
And those little
Kindles.
Those little dongles, typically $20, 25, something like that, that you put.
Well, they even sell them cheaper than that, but those little ones don't have much for an antenna. So, if you've got a desktop and you're down in the basement of the house, you might need to get a more expensive Wi-Fi setup where the antennas are on a cable that you can move.
Well, with a magnet either on the side.
Or you need a more expensive router. Right. But there are people, of course, that have desktops where it's in an area of the house where they don't have a cable, and so they're running Wi-Fi. Now, people could always string a cable across the floor. Some people aren't too keen on doing that, but I've seen it all. I've seen people that do that because they don't trust Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi's come a long way. So if you have an older router and you're finding you're getting 3 bars or less wherever you're receiving your signal around the house, whether it's a cell phone, a laptop, a desktop, think about upgrading that router, for right around $200 or less. A modern router in that price range will broadcast much further and much stronger. You've experienced this. Now, you had an extender. Did you end up pulling the extender? So that's the other thing I try to remind people is they're like, well, how does this pair with my Wi-Fi extender? You won't need your Wi-Fi extender anymore.
With a more expensive router.
With a modern router.
What are we up to? AC27? AC7 now or 6? Or
Wi-Fi 6E, which is 802.11ax. Prior to that was AC. That's where you're getting that from. They don't want to call it 802.11 blah, blah, blah. Instead, they're going to call it Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6E, you really need a brand new cell phone,
Okay.
a new router, and if you want it on the desktop, Windows 11. You can't get 6E on Windows 10. 6 is fine. 6E, you got to have Windows 11 for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, for people that are really demanding, might be worth it. But the difference between 6 and 6E to me is it's inconsequential for my use.
And Windows 11. That's all I have to say about that.
You know, it's still got some maturing to do.
Yeah.
We'll be going to
Okay.
it, right? All of us, but probably not for a couple of years.
Yeah.
At least,
October.
at the very least, I would say next summer. I can't imagine I would go to it any sooner than that. I might upgrade the streamer to Windows 11 just to do it. I don't think it's going to make a difference one way or the other.
Okay.
But, you know, as more and more people start to adopt it, I will start getting service calls for it. And right now, I barely know it. Okay. So I'm kind of avoiding it and discouraging it because if people choose to go that route, it limits how much I can help them beyond doing a Google search.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to. I mean, it's just like nothing wrong with Windows 10.
Right.
Sometimes you don't have a choice. If you're buying a new computer, especially a laptop, a lot of them now are all Windows 11, whether you like it or not. So, and that's the case, you know, I'll help my customers, of course, but I won't be very, my confidence in the speed with which I work will be impaired as I'm learning it. So I'm trying to avoid that scenario.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll all be going to.
Yeah.
Now, so yeah, we're using the B560 HD3 motherboard, and we're pairing that with the Core i5-11600k, an 11th gen i5 CPU, which I think is the best bang for a buck. That's about $215 on Amazon today. Now, because it is a K CPU, we have to provide a cooler. This doesn't require a whole lot of excessive cooling, so the Be Quiet Pure Rock Slim 2, it kind of reminds me a lot of a Hyper 212 Evo. And I was wondering, it's been sitting on my shelf for a few months, and I was wondering, where am I going to use that?
What's 130 watts TDP?
So that's the amount of heat that it is rated for keeping under control. So if we look at, because I can never remember what TDP stands for, we just type in 130 watt TDP in Google, and you guys should, you know, get accustomed to using Google to answer a lot of basic questions before, you know, for the amount of effort it takes to ask online and get different answers. You can get one answer from Google, and basically the TDP is the I can never remember. Total something. TDP stands for thermal design power.
Okay.
See, I haven't had I thought it was total design power. Thermal design power, and depending on who you ask, maybe they might say thermal design profile. The TDP number tells you the maximum heat a computer chip, such as a CPU or GPU, can use in watts. It's often used as a basic indicator of power consumption. More watts equals better performance, but also higher temperatures and more power consumption. PC OEMs can sometimes lower the TDP on a chip to increase battery life on a laptop, or raise it up to boost speed, right? So you can make that laptop go faster by raising the TDP within overclocking, but then you also raise the temperatures, and then you can run into overheating and crashing issues. So yeah, it's just a quick little definition found using Google. And
this i5 obviously has onboard graphics.
Yes, we're going to use integrated graphics, so we don't have to use a discrete graphics card. We want to keep the budget low. The whole cost of this system is less than what a graphics card might cost us, right? I mean, unless we got a real baseline graphics card, which probably wouldn't be all that much better than an integrated graphics card, depending on how you define how much of a difference is worth it. Yeah, we could easily double the price of this or more just on a graphic card. Now this is being used for business purposes, so we're going to put that in a 200R, where this business has other computers made by me over the years, all using 200R, so they all match. No employees are going to get jealous. Right. Someone's got the nice one, they can't tell. Okay. Right. Aside from the sticker that says when it was built. For the solid state drive, I picked up a couple of these Western Digital 500 gig NVMe's. And again, for office use, we don't want the employees to be saving their data on the internal storage. So having smaller internal storage will identify if an employee is doing that.
Right.
Because they'll eventually start running out of drive space, and it'll result in a support call. And then we have to educate the employee to put everything on the server, because the server is what's getting backed up, not the workstations.
Right.
So not only are we lowering our cost, but we're also sort of fencing in the employees. And then with regards to the RAM, we're just going to put 16 gigs of RAM. That's GeIL's ORION brand. Those are 2 sticks of 8 gigs each. All the parts listed are listed in the video notes below this video. Everything leading to Amazon except that RAM. I couldn't find. They have a 32 gig version at Amazon. But again, we want to keep the cost, trying to keep it around $600. The reason I have that Western Digital drive, it was on sale. I think they were $45 each. The price has gone up a little bit. The motherboard $89.99, the CPU $215. The Pure Rock Slim, I think that's $35. The RAM, I think, was $50. The Corsair 200R, when purchased directly from Corsair, is $65. And a shout out and a thank you to a viewer named Abdul Azim Patel. Abdul is in New York, and there's a 2 case limit if you want to buy these 200Rs, 2 per person.
Okay.
So Abdul wanted to support the channel, and he ordered 2 200Rs and had them sent here.
Nice.
So yeah, so I ended up like a dozen of them now, which is good. I hope they'll last me throughout the next one a month for the next 12 months. And I can't tell you the number of times I've had people message me, well, you know, what's your alternative for the 200R since Corsair's not making it anymore? Who said Corsair's not making it? Oh, I talked to Corsair. They said they're not making it. So that message for the first time came in 5 years ago, and then again 4 years ago, and then again 3 years ago, and then again 2 years ago, and then again like 4 weeks ago. And I'm like, would you people please stop? Corsair, just go to their website. Don't listen to what anybody tells you. Go to Corsair.com. In the little search box at the top right of the page, type in 200R. And if a product appears, they still make it, even if it's out of stock. If they weren't making it anymore, it would return 0 search results. I don't know why or who is spreading this false information, but you know, that's the one thing that gets under my skin more than anything is false information. And they don't even ask me. They don't even say, hey, I heard the 200R isn't made anymore. Is that true? They don't ask. They tell me it's not made anymore. What are you going to do? What are you talking about? For years this has been going on. It won't stop. So anyway, you think me talking about it's going to make any difference? There's probably 3 more messages telling me they don't make the 200R anymore just because it's out of stock. You know what else is out of stock? Those black Mugen 5s. Those have been out of stock now for like 2 months. And I need like 3 or 4 more, so I'm waiting. They'll come back. We're just waiting on inventory.
Come on, Scythe.
Hey, there's Marvin Jameson joining us in the chat. Welcome in, Marvin. Good to see you, my friend. We have a new screen, a new monitor that Mitch and I are looking at now, which is so much better than the old one. It's a little bit smaller, but it's
razor sharp.
Yeah, very vivid. So this is my first broadcast with it. And so far, meeting all of my expectations. The old one would kind of blank out and come back when it was switching modes.
A couple of dead pixels.
It had one really bright dead pixel on the top right that my eye always went to it like a magnet.
Yep.
So that was a TCL brand. It was cheap. This one is a Samsung. It was also like $300. It was pretty cheap, but much better picture quality. And the old one was 1080, and this one's 4K. Although I don't put it in 4K mode because everything gets way too tiny to look at from a distance. But if I want to grow in that direction, the monitor's ready. So, all right, so the 200R case, the power supply will just use a standard EVGA 500 watt. I've got one open down there we can throw in. Yeah, and so that's how we got to that price. bear in mind these videos stay up for years. And so somebody might be watching this video in 2023, 2024, 2025 and beyond, and they might go, well, these parts are all obsolete, or you know, these parts, you know, 500 gig NVMe drive might be $20, right? So do keep in mind when you're watching a video on YouTube, there is a date the video was published. So unfortunately, YouTube doesn't really emphasize this. So you have to look out for yourself and understand if you're watching old or current content. So the prices, a lot of people won't discuss prices for that very reason. They don't want to leave prices in comments that are going to be there for 25 years. They don't want to leave talk about prices in a video because it doesn't age well. Something might be a fantastic product, but now there's a newer, better version that's cheaper and far superior. And now if you're watching the other video and you don't know the newer video exists, you might try and find that older product when... Anyway, so generally speaking, we try to avoid talking about prices, including in the comment section, because it's like a gravestone. When you're leaving a comment in a comment section, it is there in perpetuity until the end of time. So when you say, hey, this is on sale at Amazon right now, someone's going to see that 6 years from now. And it's very, very confusing. Also, when you're looking at the comments, look at the date the comments are posted. You know, you can prevent a lot of self-imposed confusion. And one of the ways we avoid it is by simply removing those kind of comments. So I don't deal with the aftermath that is never ending in perpetuity for the length of the video as long as it exists. Okay. Somebody's going to think I don't know, and they're going to want to let me know, and that will happen till the end of time. Anyway, it gets old real quick. All right, so I guess we'll get some work done, huh?
Hey, this chip says made in Vietnam. That's where I'm going.
Well, maybe you can fix them up real cheap.
Yeah. Anybody in chat been to Vietnam? I mean, the one place for sure on my list is a place, I think in North Vietnam, called Halong Bay, which is gorgeous. So that for sure I'm going to. But if you've been to Vietnam and you've seen the sights, certainly let me know, and I'll add it to my list since I got about a month. The month of August. I'll stay there. Not looking forward to that humidity though. 90 out and 90% humidity.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what your hair looks like.
I'll just take it off and we're okay.
Hold on, don't close that up yet. Let's take that I/O shield
out
and let's do
oh yeah, we're gonna need the little doobad.
Yeah, is there two of those little M.2 bags?
How'd you know? All right, yeah, two of them.
I might have done this before.
Okay, you don't need that, yeah.
No.
And they always include the disc that nobody uses.
Yeah, that's going to be going away here soon. It won't be long before you're pretty much even now getting all your drivers automatically through Windows 10. And you want to get up-to-date drivers anyway if you were going to download them manually by going to the website of the motherboard manufacturer rather than the outdated and old software and drivers that are on the CDs that were probably pressed months ago, generations of versions ago. So I just want to take this stuff out, and we'll move this stuff out of the way.
Oh, you can fit two NVMEs, yeah.
Well, that's why there's two screws.
Ah.
Hey, starting to make sense, right?
I always thought you had a screw loose. All right.
Well, that's beside the point.
Yeah. So you picked the one closest to the PCIe slot, right? So
no. The one closest to the CPU is usually the fastest one
over here.
Though I believe on these boards they're both the same speed. But I think that one's easier to get to for an upgrade. Right. So for the thoughtfulness of the customer over here, I take care of the one that's, if there's one that has a heatsink over it, I'll use that one. Mm-hmm. And then the exposed one is less likely to result in a support call going, where is it?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because if it's under a heatsink, it's hard to describe.
Yeah.
In fact, I may not even know unless I pull up a picture of the board. I work with so many different boards.
Okay.
Just looking quickly through the chat. Robert Jones says, Mitch, have you lost weight?
I have. Good eye. I have lost 25 pounds in 2 months by having my personality removed. No, I just something clicked and I lost my appetite, so I don't know what happened. Good for me, but I'll be eating good overseas. A lot of good food I hear over there.
Can I put 3600 RAM in my board that says 3200? You can. You may not see any benefit from it, but it may not run at 3600, but it should work. Cerise says, I'm a travel agent. I do not email quotes, period. The price I give out now on the phone is the price right now. Tomorrow, next week, or even 10 minutes from now, it might not be. Look at gas prices. Changing every single day, and that's normal. They traditionally have. It seems like at the most the gas would stay the same price for maybe a week or 10 days at the longest. Well, everything also follows the price of gas because that's what it costs to distribute stuff in trucks, and that affects the prices of everything we buy. So there's a lot of other factors involved. But
you're a car guy. Not that I'm going to leave my car on empty, but I don't want to leave a full tank with its gas sitting there for 2 months. So, I'm not running on fumes, but I've got, 1 or 2 bars because, right, it makes no sense to leave a full gas tank.
Dealerships don't put a full tank of gas in a new car.
Well, plus, if I was gone 6 months, you put the can of stabilizer or whatever. But even for 2 months, I'm like,
gas does go stale.
So
ideally, you'd use gas within 3 months, but I mean, you can use gas that's a year old. The problem is the sediment that can build up. It's less likely to build up sediment if you're constantly filling the tank. It's kind of sloshing around. If you always keep it low, then what happens if the sediment breaks free is it can clog a fuel line or a filter, and then car engine can't get gas, and it can be kind of a pricey repair. But I don't think you're going to be gone long enough for that to really make a difference one way or the other.
What I did do is I did disconnect both leads to my motorcycle battery because 2 months is a long time.
Well, even just removing the negative is all you need to do to break the circuit.
Right. And then I kind of wrapped it so it can't, if it were to go back and touch something,
you can wrap electrical tape around it or something, just so if it does fall and touch anything.
Because I want to.
But as long as you remove that negative cable, you've broken the circuit.
Because that's a long time to leave it 8, 9, 10 weeks, something like that.
On a battery,
so
it could drain the battery.
So
same with the car too, though, except you might be better off leaving the car in a trickle charger or something. But even then, even 2 months really shouldn't be a problem. Right. And at the worst, maybe you got to jump start
It's garaged below ground, so it's not out in the sun blazing.
Ian Gooch contributes 10 pounds. Hey, Ian, thank you. New Toto shirt?
This was shirt number 50, and
50?
You have permission to shoot me if I get any others. That I kind of wanted that magic number, and so I'm.
What are you saying? You're done now?
Yeah, I'm done.
We don't have to do the intervention. Cancel the intervention.
50 shirts. That's a good number.
Hey, look, the Toto website has the shirts on sale 2 for $20.
Ah.
No, stay here, Mitch. Stay here.
40th anniversary.
You're getting old when your favorite band, you're promoting their 40th anniversary.
Yeah. And the fact...
the bands I listened to when I was a teenager, those guys were all in their late 20s and 30s. So when I look at Def Leppard today, I saw them as like my age, but they're like way older than me.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me feel old.
Yeah.
That's because you are old.
Yeah. But not as old as me.
I will never be as old as you. I should be careful what I say. That might make that happen. Charles M. says, let's tell each other where we're from. Me, I'm living in Sweden near the capital called Stockholm. I think most people are familiar with the capital of Sweden.
Very nice country, I hear. Yeah. Would like to visit.
What are you looking at?
I think...
Getting a look.
Yeah. I think next summer, South America. That'll. I was going to do it.
You haven't even done this trip yet. You're already planning the next one?
If I come back. Yeah, when I come back. you know, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, but I want to feel safe traveling by myself, and I was kind of
Tour groups.
yeah, but then you got to do what they want on their schedule, and so I like me and my backpack.
Misfires and Flat Tires says hello from Copenhagen, Denmark.
Ah.
Well, we've got viewers all over the world watching us. Kevin Smith wants to know if I'm a fan of the Rolling Stones. I don't think you can say that you like rock and roll and say you're not a fan of the Rolling Stones. Now, I don't think Mick Jagger has a particularly good voice. I didn't think Bob Dylan had a good voice either, but
boy, are they showmen.
Yes, they put on a show. They're very talented. But I have to tell you, in my library of music, I do not have one single. No, I have one song. I like the songs that were popular for a brief moment, like State of Shock that he did with Michael Jackson. Dancing in the Streets that they did with David Bowie.
Yep.
They're not played as often as Start Me Up. And I've always liked that song, Get Off of My Cloud, which seems even more appropriate now when we talk about internet security. I'm going to just put this one little M.2 screw in.
For later, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to put that one away so we don't lose it. I got a new little M.2 driver off eBay.
Ooh.
Took me like 6 weeks to get it.
Okay.
What was wrong with my old one? Nothing. I just thought maybe this one's better. The handle's comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas my other one, the handle's hard plastic.
Oh, yeah, I prefer. Yeah.
Right? And they're about the same length.
Are you going to have this on your website? You know, link?
I can't. It was an eBay thing.
Oh.
So it was kind of like this shipped from China or something. And I didn't know if it was going to be junk or not. And now that I've got it, I've only used it a handful of times, but I'm leaning towards preferring it over the other one. But I still sometimes grab the other one because the heads are slightly different, and there are some screws where this one fits better, and some where that one fits better. Yates Networks just became a supporter. Right on. Well, thanks for joining the Tech Club. Glad to add more new members. We will have some members-only videos coming up. This has been a crazy week for me, which is why there have been no new live videos this week, but that's not the new normal. Just trying to take care of some things, some issues here at Studio B that had to be resolved. There were some serious issues, and in fact, they're not entirely resolved, but I'm working on it, and getting rid of all the other cars I've got, just so I have one, and that's proven to be a little more challenging than I thought.
So that's Bachman Turner Overdrive, taking care of business. All right.
Oh, I thought you were going to do the other one. Don't they do one about driving? What's the other hit?
Let It Ride.
Was it Let It Ride?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of another one. You ain't seen nothing yet?
Yeah.
Roll on down the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, Let It Ride seems more appropriate though, doesn't it?
Yep.
All right. Well, should we get
this?
Fernando says, Mitch, you rapscallion.
Ah.
Not even into seafood.
Ah.
Let alone wrapping scallions.
Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah.
Where my fish is at. All right. I don't know what that just happened there. What do we want to do next?
Want to put this in or the chip in?
I don't know. You tell me.
This.
All right. What is that?
It's a SSD. It's not.
Could you be more specific?
It's a Western Digital. Oh, NVMe. Yeah. SSD.
What's the model number?
Blue. SN550.
And the link for that is in the video notes if those of you are interested. I have an Amazon affiliate account. I am obligated to tell you, which should be obvious. If you use my links, I make a small commission at Amazon. But the price for you isn't any different. So it's just another way you can show support. I can't see who's buying, but I can see what's being purchased. Okay. So you don't lose any privacy or anonymity by using those links. I can see, like let's say 10 of you went out and bought these today. I would see the date, like everything's separated by day, that 10 of these sold, but I can't see who they were sold to or if one person bought all 10. No idea. So anyway, what if we get a close-up camera? What if we get
the
camera girl to work?
All right. Close-ups are always nice.
Camera girl. Oh, camera girl.
Working on it.
Good help's hard to find.
You found me, so case closed. All right.
Proof.
Yeah.
Point made. My Gatorade's getting a little warm. I think I need to get a cold one. Do you want anything?
Agua, water. Yeah.
Do you want Fiji?
If you have it. Delicious.
Only the good stuff. This is a good year.
Yeah.
This is circa 2022.
Will this be the last good water I'll drink?
You know what?
For a while. Yeah. Most of the hotels, Chad, that I'm staying at, you know, they're not 5-star, but they might be 3 or 4-star. I have found in my room every day when the maids come in, they put a couple of bottled waters in. So I put that in my water bottle, galvanized, and take it in a little day pack.
Metal bottle water?
When I walk around. So.
Okay, let's see if we've got access to camera 3. I think it's camera 3. Is it working? No signal on camera 3. What am I missing? Okay, it says it's... There it is. All right, come on over. Come on over.
Ah, beautiful. 500 gig. Am I having a stroke? It's a little blurry. All right, no.
Well, it just blanked out.
Oh,
What happened? We just lost video.
my magnetic personality.
I wonder if we're going to have this problem again today where
with the 4K.
where it was
Yeah. You wanna plug it
constantly resyncing.
in? Plug it in?
Should we do a... Well, I'm going to give it... Let's see if it does it one more time. I want to see it synchronize. It just picked channel 8, which is a different channel. I think it just changed channels. No. It just blanked out again. Bear with us here for a minute. This is live and unscripted. And we have a wireless camera setup, which is apparently needing... So it's still on channel 8 for some reason. Wait, it's flipping channels again. For some reason, it works great on some days, and other days, now it's back to channel 8. I wonder if it doesn't like channel 8 and why it keeps...
Receiver's on channel 8.
Well, I would know that because,
Yeah.
well, that's the transmitter, that's not the receiver.
Transmit.
Okay, it's blanked out again.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we're going to hardwire this, so
Okay.
bear with us here for a minute, folks.
Smoke them if you got them. All right, so
We'll keep the audio on so you know that we haven't lost the signal. And I think what I'll do is I'll just steal the cable here out of camera 2.
Okay.
And we'll plug camera 2's cable. What are you doing? You didn't have to turn that off. And then we'll plug this in. Bear with us here just a minute, folks, as we work through a little technical difficulty, but it's a very minor one, easily fixed.
I'm all about the hardwire.
Well, this wireless device was working great for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it started acting up, and to be honest, I have not had any opportunity to address it, to work on it, but there, now we're hardwired and we should be with you now for permanently. All right, so we need to open up that box there, yeah?
All righty. Blade. A little rusty there. Can't have any accidents before I get on the plane.
No, yeah, you know what? Maybe keep you away from sharp objects. And you've been looking forward to this trip for a long time.
All right. Is that, yeah, oh, that's sealed, yeah. Bend the plastic, don't bend the...
Just turn it upside down. There you go. Sometimes they're kind of held in there with the plastic. Most of the time they're just resting in there.
Okay. Slot. With the slot. Just like that, just like a diving board. Okay.
And then we'll get that new screwdriver with the other M.2 screw that was in that little bag that we took out just a moment ago. There you go. Let's see if we can turn it this way, maybe a better view for our audience.
you don't want to cinch this down, but until it stops, and then maybe just a little tweak.
Yeah, it just secures it in place is all it's doing and keeping it from moving. Let me just step around here for a minute. I want to just check a setting on the portable camera. Are we still on autofocus? Yeah, it's on autofocus. It does seem like it's dimmer for some reason. But that's okay. Well, all of this kind of stuff is part of the prep work that a lot of people will do before they would make a video, which is, you know, checking that wireless system out, fixing any of those issues, addressing audio levels, which I do, but you could spend 2 hours just getting everything ready for a 20-minute broadcast. So I leave things set one way, and it's interesting how they just start changing on their own. I think sometimes it's maybe updates to OBS or driver updates to Windows. I don't have any other explanation as to why, once I set it a certain way, like in this case, that brightness, why suddenly it's showing up dark again. No idea. But we'll bear with it because the camera, that camera, being that it's being held, can be used to give us much closer shots. So you're ready for the CPU?
Yeah. So
here we've got the Intel, the Core i5-11600k. I think this is the best bang for the buck CPU on the market. It's $215 on Amazon today. And remember, I don't like to talk about prices because today is June 17th, 2022. Happy Father's Day this Sunday to those of you that are fathers, and to those of you who don't know yet that you're fathers, congratulations. Check your mail on Saturday or Monday to see if you've got a card. That's how I know. No cards yet. Now the K CPU, as I previously mentioned, does not come with a cooler.
Okay.
We do to get a Go Faster sticker, however. And then in here, you just take these little cardboard tabs on each side and pull them out. And then the whole piece just lifts up, and the CPU just comes out like that. Everything else goes to the recycle bin.
Any idea on how many cores, how many threads on that bad boy?
Oh.
I'm sure somebody in chat will tell us.
Cores and threads, cores and threads. It usually tells us on the side of the box here. Or I just Google it real quick. Let's see what Google says. I think it's, is it 6 cores and 12 threads?
12?
Or 4 cores and I can't remember. Core i5-11600k cores. 6 cores. That's a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
It's not a guess. I'm trying to remember. And are they, how many threads? If it's got 12 threads, then it's hyper-threaded. If it's got 6 threads, the 6 cores, it's not hyper-threaded.
Threads 12.
And includes up to 20 total PCI Express lanes, which is really good. Yeah, 6 cores and hyper-threading. So that is a heck of a deal for $215. A heck of a deal. All right, now, I know we've struggled in the past to get these CPUs installed without worrying about, without the constant anxiety of potentially bending these delicate pins, but I still say this is a superior method. It's called LGA, Land Grid Array. You know, with AMD CPUs, they're still building chips like they did in the 80s and 90s where they have pins. And then what ends up happening, and every AMD user will suffer this someday, you go to take your heatsink off, and the thermal compound holds onto your CPU, and it rips the CPU right from the socket. And if you're lucky, it won't cause damage. With the Land Grid Array, this lid, this frame, locks the CPU in place, so you can pry off a cooler. That CPU is not budging. Far superior design, and it's a newer design versus what AMD is doing, which is an older design. I'm sure AMD will eventually adopt it. I mean, they already did for Threadripper, so they already use it on their high-end chips, and it's usually the high-end stuff that trickles down to the regular consumer stuff. But I bought these little suction cups on Amazon for like $6, and they're in my little Amazon store. If you look in my video notes, down towards the bottom, it says, you know, you can buy everything you see on the channel, and click here. Takes you to my Amazon page, and then I have little stores, and one of the stores is called tools and equipment that I use, and there's over 140 items, including these little $6 suction cups that work so well. I'm going to just turn it where those little cutouts, these little grooves, go towards the bottom of the circuit board here, and I'm just going to gently rest it in place, and it'll sort of, when you've got it aligned, you see how it's kind of, right now it's crooked.
Right.
But it'll go in this little recess. If we just
Like that. Don't
do
force
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just set
don't
it.
put any, don't push down on it. You can slide it, but you don't want to push down on it. It's when you push down on it that it makes the contact with the connectors below. So that's what this little lid does here, this frame. If we just pull that out a little bit. Oh, we're on a delay feed here. I'm sorry, let me go back to this feed. So this lid is going to put down a certain amount of pressure. The amount of pressure isn't a guess. This is all engineered to when you close this clasp and it goes underneath the screw, it is going to apply a specific amount of pressure. Mm-hmm. Also, when you put a CPU heatsink on here, that also must be under a specific amount of pressure. So when you see people hodgepodging a heatsink together with different parts they have laying around, a lot of times they may be under applying or over applying the amount of pressure, which will affect the effectiveness of the cooling ability of that heatsink. And you can read more about that with Google searches, and you can read up all the engineering specifications regarding how much pressure it needs to be. Like this, you don't really have any choice, right? But just out of curiosity, if you want to look that up, it's like Newton meters or whatever it is. And then with the heatsink, that's also a published engineering specification regarding the amount of pressure that a heatsink has to have to adequately remove the heat. And then there's a range, right? It's like it's not going to be a specific number, but it's almost like filling your tires with air. There's sort of a range. Anyway, it's not as simple. I think a lot of people oversimplify things they don't understand, and they just think you put the heatsink on and you tighten it down. Well, it's designed to only be tightened down so far under a certain amount of pressure. Many people, it's just not obvious, and there's some engineering at play that you may not be aware of. That's pretty important stuff. Now, moving on.
And again, put this in the box, because if you ever have to ship this motherboard back,
yeah, for warranty,
you have to include that.
Yeah, you got to take your CPU out, or you might not get it back.
Right.
Manufacturer doesn't want your parts. They want take everything off the board, and like if you had a bad flashlight, you don't return it with the batteries in it. Right?
So you just put that in the box.
So we'll put this and any spare parts that we don't need or documentation will go in that box, and we keep it all together, and then the customer will get the computer and the box. The power cable's going to be in there. If we're using a side cooler, the screwdriver.
Have you ever installed a Slim? I've never seen that. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Not from Be Quiet, I haven't. I've installed similar, a lot of coolers. This is a very common design. Like I say, the Hyper 212 EVA would be sort of the original.
Okay.
But there's lots of companies that make these, and they're not all, they don't all perform the same. So their prices, generally speaking, the cheaper it is, if you think you're getting a bargain, you're probably getting a cooler that's not made as well and doesn't cool as well. Now, some people are also under the false belief that the cooler their computer runs, the better it runs. This is not true. As long as your CPU is in the range of operating temperature that it was engineered for, it runs the same. The only time you run into a degradation is if you're hitting close to the limit on the high end. It really isn't a limit on the low end, but whether that CPU is running 30 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Celsius, its performance is exactly the same, and there is no benefit. Maybe if you have a loud fan, a better cooler, with more surface area on the heatsink wouldn't require so much air blowing through it, and therefore would be quieter to maintain the same or cooler temperature. Also, when people overclock, they do this to themselves. They create heat-related problems, as we talked about earlier with the TDP. they create heat-related problems themselves. It's a self-inflicted issue that they then have to spend a lot of money on to resolve with expensive, liquid metal type compounds, which are very, very bad over a long term. They don't age well, but they're fine for now. It is a very expensive hobby to chase after higher clock speeds by running the chips outside of their engineering specifications. And while it can be done, I don't support it. And if you want to do it, it's sort of like if you want to eat nothing but crackers, I can't tell you not to, but if there's any negative results of doing that, that's on you. That was something you decided to do. So I have to say that because sometimes I get comments from people online that think I am telling them what to do. I am not ever telling you what to do. I'm simply sharing my experience with you. I've been in this industry 31 years, and there was nobody in this industry that could share their experience with me 30 years ago because it didn't exist. So I just make these videos in the hopes that I can provide information to people that I wish I had when I was starting. And so when people want to argue or twist what I'm saying into being argumentative or challenging, it's sort of like, you don't have to listen to me. Now this is way smaller than I thought it would be. I thought, based on the picture, this was going to look more like a Hyper 212 Evo. I don't know why I should have such a hard time getting parts out of the box. This is a little concerning. When you get a smaller fan, they do have to run at higher RPMs. And
Is that an 80? That's not a one, or is that a 120?
No, that's probably an 80 from the looks of it. 80 millimeter. And then I don't know why they really put that in there tight. This does appear to have thermal compound. Yes, it does. And I guess that's why that was on there so tight. It was to keep this covered. Oh, look, it's got AMD locking brackets on it.
Okay.
That's got to come off. I don't lock it. So I think what we got to do is we're going to have to take these 4 screws out because we're not using AMD. And then we're going to put these little push pins, which, by the way, great mounting technique here. And those will go in on each side instead. And that's how we change from out-of-the-box AMD compatibility to Intel compatibility.
Okay.
And then the spare parts, probably can throw them away. I don't really see people reusing heat sinks.
Right.
But if you want to keep the old parts in case you might repurpose this to another platform, I am kind of curious. This, I think, is going to be just enough for this CPU. This, I think, is going to be a perfect pairing. A bigger CPU would be overkill and unnecessary expense.
So we take these screws out.
Yeah, so what we'll do, we'll rest that there. And then we've got some documentation, but I don't think I need it, but we'll keep it out
Just in case.
just in case. Yeah, this has been on my shelf for a very long time. I had no idea it was that small. I've actually had a build or two where a lower height heatsink was required, like in the spaceship build. Although we're going to put a liquid cooler in there one of these days. All right, so this looks like a good job for the orange driver, the new one, because these are super tiny screws.
I'll hold it.
Look at how small those are.
Jeez.
And we'll be very careful not to touch or make contact with the thermal material. If we do, it doesn't really hurt anything. I mean, honestly, it's going to be at its peak performance if it's pure and clean. But even not at peak performance, it's more than adequate to do the job. Unless we wipe half of it off, in which case it may not have enough to do the job adequately. But A lot of people want to get every little bit of performance out. Now the question is, does this go on this way or this way? Well, that should be pretty obvious because these little tabs have to go into the motherboard. We can't put it in this way, so I don't think I need documentation. This looks pretty simple.
So you don't think it would go on top? No, you can't go on top. Yeah,
It's got to go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just put a finger on there. Can you hold that? This piece?
Why, certainly.
Yeah. And once I get the first screw started, we should be okay there. There we go. And we don't want to tighten that all the way down until we get the other side, and because it may need to adjust a little bit. And the screws are beveled, so they're going to recess, and in doing so, they align this perfectly. And then we're going to do the same thing here with the other side. See, very simple installation process here. With no RGB to deal with, and there's no additional cable management to handle. So we're going to have a nice clean install. There's no case window on a 200R, so whether this is silver or black, no one's going to see it. Sometimes the black coolers don't perform as well. Sometimes that black coating seems to negatively impact the performance by a couple of degrees, but not enough that should really make any difference except to the most.
But only 3 heat pipes. You could call it 6, but you know, really just 3.
Yeah, but it's a smaller area,
Yeah.
and it's not designed for an i7 or an i9 or anything that's going to run hot, and it's also cheaper. You're going to get what you pay for here. Now, I like the words "be quiet," even though this can install either way. I like the words "be quiet" on top of this to face the same direction as all the wording on the CPU, right? So everything's facing this way. The writing on the board down here faces that way. When the board goes in upright in the 200R, even though I'm probably the only one that's going to see it, it keeps my OCD happy, although technically it doesn't make any difference where it says "be quiet" up here. It's just purely an aesthetic. But this is going to install. This is what's nice about this mounting technique. There's no backplate to deal with. This is just like a stock OEM Intel fan in that we're just going to push down one of these towers, do the opposite corner, and then do the last 2. And that's it. We've installed it with it,
Easy
locking
peasy,
it to the board. And now we can pick this up by the heatsink. It's secured. And we can add the fan. So with the fan, we want to put the fan on so that it is blowing towards the back here where all our plugs go. And there's going to be exhaust vents on the back of the case, on all cases right over this. So we want to put the fan over here, and we want the cable out of the way. We don't want to run the cable in front of the fan. It could get, through movement of the case, of the computer, or shipping the computer. If the cable interferes with the fan, you may never know. And then the system's just going to get really hot. So now these little fan, I call them fan hangers, these little cables go on, wires go on here. And the supports is where the air is blowing out. We want the air to blow out through the heatsink. I think this is the hottest day I have broadcasted. How hot does it feel in here? Feels like it's in the 80s in here. It's very uncomfortable. See, what I don't like with the "be quiet" is there's nothing holding these brackets in. They just fall right out. I don't like that. A lot of other manufacturers sort of fit in there kind of tightly. So what I'm going to have to do is sort of align this. I don't even know how I would do this if this were in the case.
Why don't I hold it? You can.
Yeah, that'll make my life easier. Now, let me see if I can show it to the audience on this side. I'll try and do this backwards without seeing what I'm doing.
By feel. All right.
We're going to put one in that hole there that a screw would normally go in.
Okay.
One in that hole there. We'll try and make sure that the top of the fan is level.
Okay.
And then I pull back and it locks in.
Okay.
So it's in there pretty loose, but that's all it needs. And then we take the CPU fan power cable, and that's going to go right here. It says CPU optional just above this connector, and it says CPU fan just above this different colored connector. This is the only connector in this on this motherboard that is this color, and it's drawing it to your attention because it absolutely wants you to plug your CPU fan on there so it can monitor the rotation and speed of the CPU fan. So if the CPU is getting hotter, it knows to send a signal to this header to speed up or slow down this fan. Or if this fan stops spinning, the BIOS can also alert you to that and say, hey, we're going to shut the system down for safety because we're not detecting a CPU fan.
You want to zip tie that while we're here?
Yes, I do. So no documentation was needed to install this. So kudos. I've had some real issues with some Be Quiet designs, but this design actually makes sense. I like it. And I mean, I would default to Intel out of the box, but that's not really a big deal to switch it. And it may be that more people who buy the AMD stuff are looking to buy cheaper budget coolers. That's why they're buying cheaper budget CPUs. Although that's not really true as much anyway. An AMD CPU versus an Intel CPU of the same rating are usually no more than about a couple bucks apart these days. I know it sounds like I got a beef with AMD. I really don't. I need them to mature that platform better, that's all. Now, several of my clients do have beefs with AMD, and that's not my place to do anything other than provide them what they want, regardless of their biases. It all pays the same to me. However, the cost of supporting AMD has been nearly twice the cost for my business in my experience with AMD, where I'm dealing with more requests for service after the sale. And so if it sounds like I have a beef with AMD, I don't like support calls because they cost me money and take me away from making money. And it also, customers always think it's my fault, right? So it doesn't make me look good, even though it's not necessarily my fault. I always like to keep moving on new projects instead of revisiting old ones. And if a customer is going to save a couple of bucks, which again, I'm not quite sure they're really doing that with AMD, if it ends up costing me money and supporting it, then I might as well give the customer $100.
You saying beef makes me hungry. All right, let's see. Beef. It's what's for dinner. All right. What's RAM next? Okay. Is that glued or no? Is that just?
I don't think
that is.
I'm going to clear some of this out of the way.
Okay, and here's our documentation that we.
Yep. That'll go in the motherboard box in a minute.
2 sticks. Beautiful. 8 gigs each.
It shows red, doesn't it? But these aren't red, these are black. I don't know why. And for some reason they advertise it as for Ryzen, but there really isn't such a thing as AMD RAM or Intel RAM. There's RAM that's been tested and approved.
Yeah.
But just because it hasn't been approved officially doesn't mean that it's not going to work. And so RAM, you'll only generally see RAM specified for Ryzen because Ryzen's the only platform that has the issues with RAM. You won't see the Intel logo because all RAM is Intel compatible. So then another caveat when choosing Team Red there. I want to straighten this fan out. It looks a little crooked.
Okay. Beautiful 8 gig stick. All right.
That looks better. Now on this motherboard here,
spin it towards the camera.
yeah, but I want to open up those little tabs, and down here we're going to use the gray slots. Again, the RAM only goes in one direction, so we'll just pick a direction and try. And we want to make sure that the notch in the RAM aligns with the notch in the slot or in the socket. So the first thing I do is align the RAM into the track on the left and the right. And this is very difficult to do because the camera is where I should be standing. So I'm kind of working backwards, and it's a little bit awkward, but make sure that you've got it. I just knocked my microphone. Make sure that we've got the ram lined up correctly. Don't put any pressure down on it. If that notch is over to the side, and then it's no big deal. Pick up the ram, turn it 180 degrees, and reset it.
And Andy says, Mitch, no touchy the gold, the gold fingers.
Yeah, that gold connector is, if there's any sort of anti-static discharge there, that would not be good. But as long as you're holding it by the metal or by the edges, even if there was a static shock, there's nowhere for that to go to cause any harm. I knocked off my microphone twice now. It's because I'm leaning against the table and I'm putting pressure on that cable.
Now, did you say you're going to use one of these?
No, I've got an open power supply down there. Okay. So we about ready to test fire this? Is that what you're thinking?
Smoke test? Okay.
So I'll grab this documentation and we'll throw that in here. And we need a power switch.
Yeah.
I got this new power switch at Amazon.
Oh, did you?
Look, it just sits flat on the table now.
Oh, nice.
And I don't need to hook up the light. I just need to hook up the switch part of it, which is right there, those 2 pins. And then, okay, power supply. We'll grab that EVGA 500 watt. That's the one we're going to use in this build. These are $35 on Amazon today. I've only had to replace 2 of those in all the years I've been using them.
Wow.
And I mean, I have installed a lot of them. So I'm very, very happy with the robustness and reliability. And at that $35 price point, good luck finding anything better than that. Not saying everything else is going to break, but if you buy 100 of them, I suspect more out of 100 will be bad than this model at that price. And then we've got our 2 CPU power cables, which if you look over here to this connector right here, we got to put these 2 together. This sucks, but you got to hold them together. Some power supplies, these are clipped together for you, but not usually in the $35 price range. And once again, normally I would be where the camera is, so I'm working on a weird angle. So bear with me as I'm fidgeting about trying to get things to align properly. And then we'll bring the power supply and set it right over here. And then what I'm going to do is step around the other side of the counter and we're going to plug in power, keyboard and mouse, and HDMI. So here's a keyboard and mouse for you to set up for me. And an HDMI cable. Now we're not plugging any internet into this until after we have completed an install of Windows 10. And before we do an install of Windows 10, we will check to see if there's any BIOS updates to apply. That is also a major concern if you're using AMD. That's another caveat to AMD. You generally don't have that problem with Intel because Intel doesn't try and use the same socket for 4 years and hold everybody else back. So again, these are things AMD does that in a business, it is very expensive to maintain and to support. But as an individual home user where you're doing your own stuff as a hobbyist, that stuff probably doesn't matter to you. You don't think it's a big deal because you're not feeding your family based on that. So if my opinion seems strong, it's because it forces me to have to accommodate something I don't want to, and it costs me money, or it costs me more money than the competitor, and it upsets me to lose money. Okay. Or it upsets me to have a customer need a support call that could have been avoided. So that's the kind of stuff that, again, when your own computer has an issue, really nobody knows but you. You're the one who's going to fix it, and you're not determining how many customers you can help today and being held up by one system that you're losing money on and having the other 2 customers who are waiting on you, pressuring you, when are you going to get over here, when are you going to get over here? You end up having to work a longer day or you have to reschedule those customers. And if they're pissed off and they've waited long enough, they'll go somewhere else and you'll lose business. So if I sound like I have strong opinions, forgive me, but I like to pay my rent and eat and have happy customers. And AMD will get there. They will get there. We need to give them more time to mature the platform. Now, I'm kind of curious how loud this heatsink's going to be, or this fan, rather, on this cooler is going to be. I am concerned at how small it is, but it is cute. Okay. All right. Let's go to HDMI input 1. And
Smoke test chat. Will it work? Of course it'll work.
Let's move HDMI input 1. Where can we put this? Over here? All right, you want to hit that, wait, let me make sure power's on here. Power is on. And I just hit a button on this keyboard, which brought up my browser. All right.
Now
you want to hit the power button, and let's see what happens.
Here we go.
Now remember, I didn't hook the light up, so that's not going to light up, but we can watch the fan. Fan is spinning. If you, yeah, you can't see it. You won't be able to see it because the HDMI video is covering it up.
It appears quiet.
I think we'll just go full screen on the HDMI. I'm grabbing the wrong keyboard. Okay, so right now we're seeing no signal. You can go ahead and turn that camera off. We just briefly got a power on self-test screen. That's normal for it to take that long because it's never been turned on and it has to train the RAM and the CPU.
Okay.
So once it sets those timings up, then it should reboot, which is what it's doing now. It sort of started, right? It said, oh, do these timings work? Yes, they do. Okay, restart with those timings, which is what it's done right now. Now, the NVMe drive is brand new. It has no partition. It has no format. So it takes us right into the BIOS.
Should we see if there's an updated?
Absolutely. So right now, do you see our BIOS version up here in the upper left?
F7.
F7. Now, B560HD3 is a unique name. No other manufacturer can use that name. So if we just Google B560HD3, we do not have to specify that it's Gigabyte.
Okay.
Like if I was looking up a car called a Taurus, I would not have to specify Ford. Only Ford makes the Taurus. And in much the same way as they trademark that name, B560HD3 would be a trademarked title. All right, so that's why that is the way it is. Let's go back over to camera 1. Here we are. And then I will bring up my browser and let's grab a screen capture window. Which brings us to Google by default. And in Google, I just type in B560HD3. Wrong keyboard, Carey. B560HD3. And the very first link, you see I've been here before because I've installed these boards before. But that takes us to gigabyte.com. That's where we want to go.
Okay.
Don't get your BIOS from a third party. You'll see it says support up here and it says support down here. This support is for the manufacturer, just in general. This support is for the specific product for the page you're on. So we want that one. And MSI, ASRock, Asus, they all do the same with the 2 support buttons.
Okay.
It's very strange. If we scroll down, we want to look at BIOSes. We want to look for anything newer than F7. There's the one we have now. You should always see the one you have now on the list. If you don't, you might be on the wrong product page.
Okay.
There's been an F8, an F9, an F10, and now we're up to F13.
Lucky 13.
Say we're due.
Okay.
So we're going to hit the download button. We're going to grab that. Now I'm going to have to describe a lot of what I'm doing because OBS only captures. I have to change if it's capturing an Explorer window or an Edge window or a Chrome window. So all I'm doing is expanding that zip file we just downloaded. I'm going to put a flash drive into the streaming computer, which is what we're capturing the screen on here. The BIOS flash drive, I always keep it empty. I always keep it blank. And I copy the biggest file that's in that zip file. It ends with .f13, which is the number of the BIOS. That's how Gigabyte does it. Other manufacturers do it differently. and we copy the file onto the flash drive, and then we no longer need the zip file or the expanded folder that we just extracted the zip file to. Once we've downloaded and copied the file to the flash drive, I highly recommend you remove the file so that you don't confuse yourself and then end up, wasting time trying to figure out what is this, because the file name itself is a bit cryptic. It doesn't say Gigabyte BIOS, unless you make a folder and call it that. But there's no reason for you to hold this stuff because Gigabyte's holding it for you. And if F14 or F15 or F16 come out, you don't want to continue using F13. So let's say, for example, I had 10 of these to build. I would want to download the BIOS every time, unless I'm building them all on the same day, because a new BIOS could come out tomorrow, and I need to check every day. So that's just me. That's just the way I am. I want to make sure that if I'm building it, I want to put all the latest and greatest on it, so the customer doesn't have to update anything and is fully protected with it. Has all the newest bells, whistles, and features that a newer BIOS or an update would offer. It's just part of the service I provide. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the flash drive out of here. You don't have to safely disconnect anymore. You can if you want to, if it makes you feel better. But as long as the flash drive is not in a read or a write cycle, it's safe to remove. Now, I'm going to step around and I'm going to plug this in. The system is still on and we are still in the BIOS right now, so we're going to be very careful how we touch it because power is flowing through here. Any USB port should be fine. And then it takes a second for it to acknowledge you plugged something in and for it to initialize and communicate with it. So take your time. Don't try to rush through this because you might go faster than the system and then you'll think something's wrong when it was just you being impatient. I fix a lot of problems due to impatience.
I kind of like the motherboards where it can do it via Ethernet,
Yeah,
that's kind of nice too.
I see that a lot with ASRock.
Rock.
Especially on their
Asus,
later stuff.
maybe?
But I still have a 50, maybe a 60, 40, 70, 30 chance of that succeeding.
Right.
So 30% chance that it gives me an older BIOS for some reason or that it fails for some reason. And then I end up doing it this way. This way always works.
Right.
But it's certainly more convenient just go in the BIOS and,
Via internet.
and just have it do it automatically, and then you don't have to locate it. So when I go to back over to OBS, let's go back to this screen. Did I push a button? Yeah, I must have hit a button. Okay, so do you know what I do?
Let's see. It's advanced F2
Or
Q flash, yeah, F8, yeah.
so we'll do update BIOS. Hopefully it sees. Yeah, it sees. The reason I keep the flash drive blank is so that I only have one option appear here, so I can't make a mistake. If I have multiple BIOSes, I better be sure I select the right one. It says, are you sure you want to update? Yes. It'll verify that the BIOS is compatible, right? Verifying. It says, okay, press to start. Sometimes, and I don't know what the logic is, sometimes it'll offer you to make update the backup BIOS. All these Gigabyte boards have a dual BIOS. I don't really think that's important unless you're running AMD and you've got to have a backup BIOS because the chip you're using won't be recognized by the older BIOS. In this case, if we needed to recover for any reason going back to F7, it would still be bootable and then we could re-update it again. But if it's there and it says update backup BIOS with a little check, you know me, I'm gonna do it.
Yep. And right now, be patient, no touchy.
Yeah, keep your hands off the keyboard, the mouse.
At least this gives you a percentage, so you see where you are here.
They all do that though.
So
I've never seen a BIOS update that didn't give you a percentage. of
some of them
progress.
have a weird, like a circle with pie wedges as it goes around.
Yeah.
Those. Am I dating myself?
No, it's
Yeah.
each
Yeah,
manufacturer. Look, if they do things too similarly, they might just sue one another for stealing their ideas.
Right.
So a lot of times that's the motivation. Other times they just think they can be superior with a different, more intuitive design they think is more pleasant to look at. A lot of this these aren't decisions made by engineers. These are decisions made by management. And quite often, and please do know, that engineers are often at odds with management over how they think things should be done. So sometimes people are upset that the engineers did something a certain way, when generally speaking, the engineers do what they're told, and management is being told by PR, by marketing, by sales, by customer feedback, and they don't care about the technical aspects of things. A lot of times they care about what the customer wants, because at the end of the day, they want to make sales. So if the engineer says, well, this doesn't make any sense, this would be superior to do it this way, they go, yeah, well, that's not going to sell, so shut up and do what we tell you to do. So don't get mad at the engineers, get mad at the management. And a lot of times, as I said, that's often being directed and steered by marketing companies, especially companies like Microsoft. A lot of the business decisions they're making are actually being made by the marketing companies, not by the engineers. You know, Microsoft wants to remove all mechanical hard drives and force you to have an SSD. And I think that's great, but that's going to piss off so many people who can't afford it.
Yeah.
But it's coming. Once Microsoft has, leaked that information out, that tells you that that's going to sit on the to-do bench as many years as it takes for them to safely make that transition, where the outrage will be minimal. But do yourself a favor. If you're running a mechanical hard drive, find a way to get a solid state drive. It'll be like getting a brand new computer. Your computer will never run so fast. And you'll say, gosh, you were right, Carey, I should have done this a long time ago. All you got to do is read the comments in any of my SSD upgrade videos where I've upgraded somebody's hard drive to a solid state drive. Just read the comments. And people who have done it have like, oh my gosh.
And of all my career of computing, I've only had one hard drive, and I wouldn't say whether it went bad, but it just started to click, and then I knew it was time to copy everything over.
It was always time to copy everything over. You don't always get a warning, so that click, you were lucky that you got a warning.
Right.
So right now the system is booting. That's why you see Elgato. It says no signal. That means the motherboard is not sending a video signal out because it's resetting with the new BIOS in it. And again, this may take 30 to 90 seconds. Don't freak out. Don't interrupt it. Don't use the keyboard. Don't use the mouse. Walk away if you have to. The system will wait forever for you. I could leave this and come back in 3 days. It'll still be waiting for me regardless if it has an issue or it doesn't. It's not like the issue is going to get any worse if it has one. Most of the time, the issues are related to impatience. You see see the screen blank out?
Yep.
It's just now finishing up what it's doing for updating the BIOS. It has to retrain again the RAM and CPU all over again. So it's like starting the board for the first time. If it stays on here for like 6 minutes, then I'd be worried. But just staring at a clock for 6 minutes is a long time.
And there it is.
Now it should take us back into the BIOS again, and we should now see in the upper left corner, instead of F7, we have F13. Now the other day I was doing a BIOS update on a board, and the screen went blank during the BIOS update process. Turns out it's my capture card.
Oh.
For some reason the capture card did that. So the board was actually sending out a video signal.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to pull this Elgato 4K card out and put my Magewell 1080 back in, because I never had that problem. On the other hand, I never had the problem before using this card.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was all about, but I almost bricked my own motherboard live on camera because I'm like, I should have got a video signal by now. But that's why you wait extra long, just in case it's doing something and you're not seeing it. And in my case, I just happened to wait just long enough. I got lucky because I didn't time it. I was just using my sense of time, which, by the way, not good. Not good. All right, we can go back to camera one now. So let me do that. Camera one. Okay, so system is still on. Go ahead and tap the power button. That'll shut it down. And I'm waiting, you guys can't see, but I'm waiting for the CPU fan to stop spinning. That's the only way I know it's on or off, when I have no video and I didn't hook up the power light.
Now I can take out the BIOS flash drive?
I'm going to erase that file on the flash drive. We never need it again. unless I'm working on another brand new H560 HD3. Hey, wait. This is Windows 10. I've got a video that shows you how to make a Windows 10 or Windows 11 flash drive completely for free. It's all legal. It's the activation you got to pay for, but it'll run without a key code, and it'll run without activation indefinitely. It won't prevent you from starting any programs, but it will prevent some personalization of the desktop and customization of the operating system, and it'll put a little watermark to remind you to activate, but otherwise it won't prevent you. Like Microsoft Office, you can install Office without a product key. You can download it for free. It's all legal. You install it without a product key. It goes into a trial mode, and you're allowed to run it so many times, and after that it won't run anymore. So now if you're in the middle of a document or something
Right.
and it says, well, you've only been allowed to run Word 15 times and you're on opening number 14, you almost have to leave it open and don't close it. But if you get a Windows update that causes the system to restart at night, well, anyway, then you have to pay for the activation.
Right.
But at least Microsoft allows you to continue to use Windows 10 and Windows 11 indefinitely without an activation code. So be aware of that. You can download it legally, install it legally, and use it legally with no activation code, but there will be some limitations. But it doesn't restrict opening up applications and using it. Also, the same does not apply for Microsoft Office. They are not that generous. Office, after you open it a few times, again, I think it's like 15 times, or 15 days, whichever comes first, at that point they're like, okay, this isn't going to open anymore. As soon as you open it, it says, to go into Word now, enter your activation code. Now, the good news is, if you follow my videos and you've downloaded the media the way I show you, direct from Microsoft, legally, you can go to VIP CDK deals and get a discount on that Office 2016, Office 2019, Office 2021, Windows 10 or Windows 11 product keys are about 80%, sometimes 90% off the cost of retail. The keys are designed to be installed once. They tie to the motherboard. But if you ever have to reinstall, you might have to buy another key. So I recommend, after you've installed and activated, do a full image backup, and then you won't have to deal with that ever again. If you don't take my advice, and you know better than me, and then you're upset because you bought Office last year, now for some unknown reason, unforeseeable reason, you have to reinstall it, I'm telling you that key probably is only going to activate that one time you did a year ago. And maybe you're going to grumble, well, I've got to buy another key. You're still far under the retail price of one key. You could probably buy the key 8 times before you'd reach the cost of the retail key. And yes, the retail key should allow you to reactivate, but if you're reactivating 8 or more times, Microsoft might just shut that key down thinking it's being pirated. So bear in mind what your expectations are to what you're spending. This is called an OEM key. There's nothing fishy about it. This is how OEM keys have always worked. They just generally weren't made available to the public. If you want to search my YouTube channel, I've got a more detailed video that talks about the difference between OEM licenses and retail licenses. Companies like Dell and HP, they don't pay retail licenses. There's no way you're buying a $400 computer that they paid $120 for a Windows license on. And the reason Microsoft is able to do that is they'll tell Dell, we'll sell you X amount of licenses for, let's say, $20 each, but you support it. Let the customers call you. Customers can't call us.
Right.
And as long as we agree to that, then we'll discount it. The cost of support, if you haven't gotten that from my moaning about AMD, the cost of support is one of the single most expensive parts of running a computer business, or at least it used to be. Nowadays, they're charging. You buy a brand new HP printer, you need support, they're like, give us your credit card. It's $35. And then if they say, well, there's nothing we can do to help you, do they refund the money?
They do not.
No. No, that employee has to get paid for their time. Someone's got to pay for the phones. Someone's got to pay for the office the employee's sitting in, the air conditioning, the electricity. Yeah, they're not doing that for free on that $70 printer you bought. They're not exactly making money hand over fist. They're making a little tiny amount, and they're making profit through quantity. So, I mean, if you just take a moment to think about how all this works, it starts to make sense that when you start spending big bucks, like let's say, for example, you buy a high-end European car, Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, when you take it to the dealer, I think you'll find they treat you very differently in the service department than when you take your Chevy or Ford to the dealer. That's been my experience.
They probably serve champagne. Champagnes?
I will say that, I'll go to when I had that Hyundai, I'd go to the dealer and there's like, nobody is greeting me. I'm like standing in the service bay going, is anybody working here?
Yeah, hello?
Even when I go to the Ford dealer, sometimes I'm just ignored. I'm like, can anybody at least acknowledge I exist and you'll be with me in a minute or something?
I'm a customer.
Right? I've had the security guard go, nobody helped you yet? No. Okay, I'll get somebody. I wait. Security guard walks back. They haven't come out yet? Said they're still not here. He goes, all right, hold on. Sorry about that. And then, anytime I've ever pulled the BMW up, back when I owned one, hello, Mr. Holzman. I mean, they knew who I was the minute I pulled up. They have a little tablet. I think they put the plate in as I'm pulling up. It pulls up all my contact information, all my history. You go inside, and I like to go in the afternoon, so all the donuts and everything are gone.
Yeah.
Not at the BMW, man. There's cookies and donuts. Doesn't matter what time of day. They'll put you in a loaner car. Ford won't put me in a loaner car. Chevy and Hyundai won't put me in a loaner car. BMW did. But the BMW costs more.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend more, it is reasonable to expect more. If you're going to spend less and think you're going to get that same level of service, the problem is you. You're being unreasonable. So when we compare OEM Windows and Office keys, do understand they're intended to be activated once. The Windows key will be tied to the motherboard regardless, unless you reuse it on another board, which it shouldn't let you do. But whatever the last board is it activated on, it will reactivate automatically from that point forward. Office, on the other hand, it's kind of a crapshoot. I've reinstalled Office a year later, and the key accepted just fine. And I've done it where the key doesn't. The good news is the keys are heavily discounted. So even if you have to buy 2 or 3 or 4 keys, you're well under the price of one retail key regardless. And as I mentioned, if you make an image backup of Windows after you've activated your products, then when you do your restore, they restore activated, at least as far as Windows and Office are concerned. Not so much with products like Intuit products like Quicken. Those will always have to be reactivated. Adobe products always have to be reactivated, even after a restore. They are really, really hammering down on piracy and assume you're a pirate. That's the default assumption, which I think sucks. But it's important to make these distinctions because how each company wants to go about protecting their software is each company's own decision. Microsoft's decision to protect Windows differently than it does Office, or Adobe's to do it differently from Microsoft or Intuit. It's their, if it was your company, you'd get to pick how you wanted to do it. Nobody could tell you how to do it. And so for that reason, it varies from software company to software company. Some software companies still don't have any activation at all. Like Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer, there's no activation on that. Or Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Netfix tool. So nothing prevents you from using it on 100 computers and only paying me for one license, and I'm okay with it. So someone else might invent similar tools and require activation and enforce how many machines you can use it on. I ain't like that, which is probably why I couldn't afford the BMW anymore. Doesn't pay to be nice.
Well, Chad, I've got something interesting. I'm not Carey knows I'm not really a jewelry guy, but whenever I travel internationally, do you, some of you people, I'm a big fan of the TV show called Bosch that then ran for 4 seasons. He played a detective on the LA police force.
Who was the actor in that?
Titus Welliver, and then it's now spun off to where he quit the police force and now he's a private detective, so it's called Bosch Legacy. So as soon as I saw him wearing one of these sailor kind of bracelets, because he's supposed to be
marine or something like that. So you put them on and they shrink in the shower. So you really, I guess it's not supposed to take them off. So I kind of bought one, and I brought one extra because I don't think this will last in salt water if I'm swimming and snorkeling in salt water. But you know,
Getting fashionable in your old age.
he looked cool wearing it. Me, not so much, but I just told my brother, you know, when they send photos of the body, make sure it's on my left hand. On his is on the
Foul play.
On his is, he keeps it on the right because he's got a beautiful, you know, Rolex or something on his left. So I noticed still photos when he was holding a gun, it was on his right, but I'm left-handed, so. Yeah. I'm like,
put it on your dominant hand.
Yeah, so I'm like, I've never really worn jewelry. It took a while to get used to, but.
And that was it the 80s or 90s? They made friendship bracelets, you know. And
that's
if you took it off, you weren't friends anymore.
That's
Let's begin Windows 10 install. We can still sort of chit chat while what's happening, but let's kick it off. Do me a favor and hit the power button, and I will bring up the HDMI input. We'll go full screen on this so you can see in sharp detail. Not that I haven't done this 8 million times before, but I'll just narrate on top of it. So now this should boot to the flash drive. That's the Windows 10 media we were talking about, how you can create that for free, downloading it direct from Microsoft. Because that's the only bootable thing the motherboard can start from.
Yeah.
Without that, it would just go back in the BIOS again.
And you've got a nice video on how to do this.
Well, we're going to have two now.
Okay.
All right, because we're going to do it again here.
Okay.
And the Windows 11 installation is exactly the same. It just looks a little bit different, but it's still the same order and still the same questions, and how they're displayed is slightly different, but everything is the same because Windows 11 is essentially a dressed up Windows 10 at this point. Now that should be changing with updates in the future. So here we just go with these defaults, we hit next and install now. And I always install Windows without a product key. And a lot of people are like, what do I do? Well, it's just down here. Most of the things I'm going to be doing during the install are written in fine print down below. And it's even worse on Windows 11, but I assure you it's there. I think in Windows 11 it's like really small off to the left if I remember, but I always choose that I don't have a product key. Now the product key defines what version of Windows 10 you've got. So if we don't tell it the product key, then it has to ask us, did you want Home or Pro? Right, if we're in the US primarily, we're going to be choosing just one or the other, either Home or Pro. The cost difference between buying an OEM version of Windows 10 Home is about $3. So I just give everybody Windows 10 Pro, and I don't have to deal with the support call for maybe 10 or 15% of users that at some point decide they want to upgrade from Home. So I just spend the extra $3, everybody gets Pro. Now on the retail side of things, it's more like a $50 difference. And then you're basically paying for 2 operating systems. You're up around $250 retail. And this license here is like $17.90 at VIP CDK deals. Using the coupon code CAREY gets you 30% off. It's also a great way to show support for the channel. So now that we know we're going to buy a Windows 10 license for this. Okay, so can't go back and change this. We'd have to do a complete reinstall. So make the right decision here and do it once. Next, we have to agree to the end user license agreement. Again, everything we're doing is down at the bottom of the screen. Next, always choose custom install. Now, if you have multiple drives, only hook up one drive. Then there's no confusion over which drive to install on. So even if I was going to have a mechanical drive or a second NVMe drive, I would not plug them in yet. I just want the one drive I want to boot from. This keeps everything simple. There's only one choice, and hit next. Now it's going to automatically make multiple partitions, format those partitions, and copy over the files required for Windows 10 to install. Now, this process is so fast. Now remember, this isn't an i7 or an i9. This is an i5. This is the last generation, which is still current, 11th gen. And I want you to see that this is, first of all, the CPU fan is dead silent.
Yeah.
So Be Quiet is staying true to their name. And the board, putting this all together on this board was real easy. Anybody can do this. You don't need 30 years of experience to do this. In fact, you don't need any experience. You just need to pay attention to what I'm showing you. And it just clicks together like adult Legos with some care being taken when you put that CPU in the socket. It's really not that big deal. See, now that whole thing, while I was talking, copied everything it needs to install Windows 10. I'm not even going to click anything. I'm going to let this just run. And when it restarts here, I no longer need that flash drive anymore.
Okay.
Right now, I could pull the Windows 10 flash drive, and the Windows 10 install will complete as normal. However, I don't like pulling the flash drive out while the computer's busy, so I just generally leave it in until I'm done for safety. But everything it needs to complete the job is now on the NVMe drive, just so you know.
On some of my builds, I struggled a little bit with the cooler, but that's just, you know, like you said, with the brackets, with the parentheses,
Well,
were they this way, you know, this way
Well, I
or
can't
this
see
way? Yeah, oh yeah. So,
But yes,
but yeah.
But
I
this
mean,
cooler, you wouldn't have had.
no,
that
that's just, yeah, those push pins.
that make it easy.
And the compound was already applied.
And
which
you
is
could
nice.
watch one of my videos that probably
Right.
details how those, because I'm the same way. I think the same thing.
Yeah.
Does this go on right side up or other side up, or does it go on the left, or does it go on the right? Sometimes some cooler manufacturers make assumptions that anybody installing their cooler would just know this stuff.
But the Mugen 5, I mean, like you said, in terms of dead easy to install, that one is the way to go. I mean, it just was.
Well, like I said, they're sold out of the black edition, but when they come back in stock, I'll probably order a half dozen of them. I only need like 3, but coolers don't go bad. I can have it sit on. The liquid cooler can go bad sitting on a shelf. Okay, we're at the final setups, and this is starting with the region, which is United States. Then it's going to ask about the keyboard layout, which is United States. Then it asks if we want a secondary keyboard layout for a secondary language. I do not, so I hit skip. Again, the customer can always change that once they have the machine. Now, I'm going to say I don't have internet because if I put internet in this now, it's going to force me to create an online Microsoft account. I don't want to log into a Microsoft account and then give the system to a customer who's now logging into my Microsoft account.
Right.
So I'm going to click I don't have internet. Again, I'll look for that fine text down at the bottom of the screen. Usually I have to tell it twice. Right? Here it's telling you, Wade, you gotta create a Microsoft account. They don't really say it, but that's marketing speak all up there.
Oh, yeah.
Full setup with Microsoft account. See, it's just a couple of words in there. It doesn't stand out any differently. Anyway, just tell it again. Continue with little bit. So you got to tell it twice. And then it says, okay, now we can create what's called a local account. I just put the word user in there. Hit enter. Leave the password blank by hitting enter so it won't interrupt for a password at boot up. I turn off all of this stuff here, which again is all changeable. Once the customer has this, they can go in their settings and you can go to the page to adjust these things if you want to. I like to leave location on so it will automatically adjust for daylight saving time, date and time. You can type in where's Pizza Hut near me or something like that. And you know, if it doesn't know where you are, it might be pointing you somewhere in another state.
Hit accept,
Yeah. And then we'll hit not now for Cortana. Again, all of this can be changed very easily by the end user. This is how the machines go out of my shop. Now, at this point, it's finalizing the final steps of the Windows 10 installation. And then we will go back here to camera 1 right after we are successfully at the desktop. At which point, I'm going to remove the flash drive, which again, I could have removed earlier. I'm going to plug in the internet.
Okay.
And then we're going to start grabbing Windows updates, which is going to take a while. And while we're doing that, we're going to invite questions from the audience because of the length of time that takes to do the updates. I'm doing all of this outside of the case so that once I have all the updates and drivers and everything installed, all I have to do is pop this in the 200R with a power supply, cable management, manage it, and then put the panels on, put a date on the side for when it was built, month and year, goes back in the original case box, and gets shipped out to the customer.
Yep.
This way, if I run into any problems during any part of the installation, or configuration of the hardware or software, with the motherboard being outside of the box, I can make adjustments and changes much easier. So if I click this Get Started, it's going to have an error because can't have any. It doesn't have any internet,
Right.
but at least get rid of the nag screen. So I'll say complete, continue without signing in, and that gets rid of that. Now this is doing what Asus does now. That BIOS update activates this thing where it'll offer if you want to download and install drivers and Gigabyte utilities. I never ever do this for any of my systems. If you do install any of those Gigabyte utilities, be sure you constantly keep them updated, because all it takes is a Windows update for your system to start blue screening and crashing. Even something like RGB software can cause your system to crash if you don't keep it updated. So if you're going to use the App Center and the utilities and it tells you at any point that there's an update, I highly recommend that you grab the update to avoid the problems the update is issued to prevent or resolve. Okay.
So we can pull the flash.
Yeah, I'm going to go back over to camera 1 while you grab that flash drive and pull out the Windows 10 installation media. Thank you.
And
we'll use that again another day.
Ethernet?
Yeah, there should be that thin Ethernet cord on the ground.
Yeah, the thin one. Yeah,
So
right
you
here.
hear
Yeah.
his bones cracking.
Yeah. Oh. Plug it in.
Please. You notice how Mitch is touching the top of the I/O shield. He won't touch the circuit board. He can also touch the top of the heatsink. He won't need to wear an anti-static strap if he's not touching anything that's static sensitive to begin.
And now we're connected to the internet.
So with our connection to the internet, if we go back over to the desktop, it acknowledges that an IP address has been assigned onto an unfamiliar network. Is this a public or a private network? It's saying, do you want this to be discoverable? I usually say no, but it'll do this when the customer plugs into their network. It'll ask them the same question again.
It is interesting that it did instantly reset the time to the correct time.
Oh, did it just do that?
Yeah.
So we'll go to Settings. We're going to go to Windows Update. But I want you to see it's already downloading updates. That's why this is happening.
Gotcha.
So there's going to be a lot of these updates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put this screen in the corner, I think, so we can kind of keep an eye on it. And then we'll, right now, while we're waiting here, if you guys have questions for us in the chat, please ask. We've not been looking at the chat for the last 20 or 30 minutes. I haven't seen anything that's going on in there. So bear that in mind. If you want us to see something you said earlier, you'll have to retype it now. I'm going to scroll all the way up as far back as it'll let us. It looks like we missed some contributions. So, quite a few.
Okay.
Yates Networks, I mentioned, became a member. And then Michael Dane contributed $5 and says, greetings.
The man.
Greetings, Carey, Mitch, and chat. Wilhelm Gordon contributes $9.99. Craig Casabona with a $5 contribution said, nice to see you, Mitch. And Carey live together. Mike Visions with a £20 contribution says, good evening, Carey and Mitch, and all in the chat from Manchester, UK.
Okay.
Go Man U! Oh, that's pretty terrible. It sounded better in my head when I did it. Manchester. And let's scroll through the chat. Thanks to Mike Visions and Craig Casabona, Wilhelm Gordon, and Michael Dane for your contributions and supporting the madness of this channel. Tapaya wants to know if I've considered wearing your mic on your collar. The reason I don't wear it on my collar is every time I move, it rubs against my skin, and you hear this horrible, scratchy, staticky, oh, it's very annoying. If I was sitting in a chair and I wasn't quite so animated, then that would be ideal. But we're moving around, we're bending and picking things up and lifting things, and well, I guess that's picking things up. But you know what I'm saying. It's when I'm leaning against the table, well, you can't see because the screen's in the way. But what I end up doing is inadvertently pulling on the cable. But I wouldn't normally do that. I wouldn't normally lean against the table unless what I'm trying to do is accommodate the camera. So what ends up happening is the camera and the motherboard are in the position that I should be with the motherboard, so that you guys have the view, and it forces me to have to reach further to work backwards. And look at that. See, a video driver just went in there.
Yep.
Did you see that?
Yep.
Oh, it just went into like 4K mode. See how small everything got?
Yeah. And a lot of channels, you know, have a boom mic that's just out of frame.
Oh, there's that.
Just out of frame, but if Carey's moving around, he's going to be off.
Well,
and you're not going to be able to hear.
If I turn this way,
yeah.
right, the boom mic, you're going to barely be able to hear me.
So
It's sort of like if you're walking with somebody outside and they're walking ahead of you and they're not turning back when they talk.
yeah.
What? So that's the problem with a static microphone, is you always have to be faced. Again, if we're sitting,
Yeah.
that's much more viable. But to be moving around, really need a wireless microphone.
I get used to the boom mic when I'm acting, of course, because it's close.
Well, somebody's moving it
constantly.
constantly.
But it's as close as you can get without it dipping into frame. So. Which reminds me, because I lost all this weight, I had some new headshot photos taken, so my agent was very pleased. She's like, "Are you okay? You're not?" No, I'm not sick, but I just said, "Nah, it's 20 pounds since my last headshot photos." And
wow.
So, yeah, you can see them, Chad, if you go on my IMDb page, Mitch Morrison. Not now, we're live, but I've got a couple of.
Mitch Morrison at IMDb or just MitchMorrison.com?
Just at IMDb, Mitch Morrison, yeah. And I got a couple of new shots that my agent very much likes, and so.
James H88 contributes $1. Jason H88 contributes $1. Thank you, Jason. Mort Taunt wants to know if I'll be having a birthday chat. Yeah, you're leaving 3 days before my birthday. I see. Anything to get away. Sorry, I won't be available. Yeah, you're going out?
Yeah, I'm on
in Asia.
I'm on a 22-hour flight. Leave me alone. You know, if I was smart, I'd take an Ambien during
Knock
that
yourself
flight.
out.
But I'm afraid that I'll sleepwalk down the aisle and try to open the escape door.
I'll watch for you on the news.
Yeah, and then
I guess he took the Ambien.
And then I'll be on the news. So,
is a stock cooler? This is a question from Jerry Span in our chat room. Is a stock cooler on an i5-10400 sufficient if used as a gaming rig? Well, not all gaming rigs are playing the same games. So like retro games or RPG games or esports or first-person shooters are all games, but they all have different requirements and different results. So the stock fans are designed by the manufacturer to be adequate to what's needed. So the manufacturer isn't going to include something that isn't going to adequately perform, but there's a lot of snobs on the internet and elitists who think, you know, it's not good enough. Now, what I suggest is that you use the stock fan and see how it is for you. Maybe it turns out to be too loud. Or maybe the games you play are pushing the CPU towards that upper limits of what that cooler can do, and then you might want to buy a beefier cooler, but you can always change that out at any time. So rather than what I see people doing all the time, and it kind of drives me crazy, is they foresee problems that they may never have, and they want to know how to fix them. So what I'm saying is verify if you've got the problem first before having any anxiety or spending any money and doing any additional work for something that is purely based on nothing more than your imagination or words from strangers or videos from strangers, people you don't personally know on the internet. People have different levels of value systems. A lot of it has to do with how much money you make. Somebody who makes more money would be more in line with never accepting a stock cooler. That's not good enough for them. Some people would never buy a stock, vehicle. It's got to have all the bells and whistles or they're not interested. And it's not always true. Some people who have a lot of money don't want to spend it, and they also just want the basics. So it's impossible to really know where you as an individual see value. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Somebody said, I don't want this piece of junk, and they put it out at the curb, and you're driving by and you're like, stopping the car going, hey, that looks like a perfectly good dresser. I'm going to pick that up. Yeah, it's got a couple scratches. So what? Let's load it and take it, right? Which person is right? Which person is wrong? And which one of those people are you? Are you the person that put the thing out to the curb? Or are you the person who saw it and picked it up? I don't know you. Therefore, I suggest you wait until you have an actual problem that needs to be solved, rather than trying to prevent a problem that you're assuming you're going to have, or you're even concerned you might have. Verify the problem exists. Then, when you come into the channel and you say, I got a 10400, I play this game at this resolution and I'm getting these temps, it's a little loud, what do you recommend for a cooler? I can provide you some options there.
Bradley wants to know, Mitch, who inspired you to become a comedian and how are you feeling after your fall? Well, that was, you know, the broken ribs happened there Christmas Eve day, so it's been, you know, a full 6 months. On occasion, I mean, I still can feel it a little bit, but it's, you know, it's fine. Inspired a comedian, obviously Richard Pryor and George Carlin. I took a lot of classes. I was getting pretty good at it, but as I have told Carey in chat, I got to the point where getting on stage before going on, I was pacing like a panther. And, you know, comics would say, I'm afraid to even touch you because I'm afraid you're going to break into a million pieces. I'm like, why am I doing this? So
it's high stress.
So I thought about quitting, and then it was a comic who told me, I think you should take acting classes because that would maybe help get over your fear. And remember, with stand-up comedy, there's a lot of variables that are beyond my controls. You know, bad sound systems, bad lighting, drunken patrons,
bad jokes.
Drunken patrons heckling you. That's all that is not in my control. But as soon as I took acting and realized it's all here, and the 43 face muscles that you have for the most part, that I had control over, and I found as soon as I jumped into my first acting class that I liked it a lot better than stand-up. I still write. I mean, I still write jokes and things like that, but I don't get to perform as much as I should. But I wouldn't be afraid now because 4 years of acting classes and audition classes and everything has built up my confidence to be not only in front of a camera, but in front of, you know, there might be 60 people on the crew standing behind that glass eye, and you're, you know, spilling your guts out or whatever. But it helped, and it really, the acting classes built confidence. And so, but for me, the two main guys was Carlin and Pryor. I mean, they are 1 and 2. No one has even come close to those two guys. They were both geniuses, in my opinion. And yeah, I liked them. Liked them both. Still like them. So
I was going to say, when I was doing the videoing for Newegg, I was Newegg spokesman a couple years ago and did a lot of videos over there. They have a full crew. So when I'm making a video here in Studio B or even Studio A, there's no pressure, right? I don't have a camera operator here, or somebody wearing headphones and making notes for edit points. I've got a big monitor that the boss is watching live, and I've got to say certain things. I'm on a script. So what would happen is, you know, you got these big lights, you've got this crew of about 5 or 6, which is still a small crew, but you've got a grip, at least one camera operator, a director, a producer, and an audio, okay? Usually the editor's not involved at this point, and in any office staff that do administrative work, they're in another room. So I might, for example, have to say, thank you for watching DIY Garage on behalf of Newegg. My name is CareyHolzman. Thank you for watching. Be sure and if you enjoy this content, be sure and it was really relatively simple and pedestrian and just very common. I said it over and over again. And yet, I remember one day I couldn't get the words out.
Take 17. All right.
And the whole crew, this is the last thing we have to film, and we go home. They can't go home until I do it right. So the worst thing you can do, and this happens to me, is you get in your own head. You get this, like, you step outside of yourself and see what you look like, and then you're so focused on look, I can't say what you're doing. I'm so focused on what I might look like or how I might appear as incompetent over something that should be so simple, and I'm beating myself up instead of focusing on the task. And then I'd be driving, because it's a 6-hour drive from Los Angeles. I'd be driving home, and I would repeat the line in my car perfectly and endlessly. Like, why couldn't I have done? I'm driving, you know, and I'm just like saying those lines over and over again. Like, what was that so hard? But when you're shooting with a full film crew, and you're right, you've got to pour yourself out, you pour your heart out, you've got to show emotion, and you've got the boom operator, you got the camera guy, you got the director, you got the lighting guy, you might have the director of photography, you might have the set guys, makeup, and they're all, you know, quiet on the set, and they're all watching you. All eyes are on you. So the minute you make a mistake, you don't have to look around and go, oh, did anybody see that? Everybody saw it. And then the more you beat yourself up over it, the more mistakes you start making, and then people are like, oh, one mistake's one thing, but how many times is this going to take this guy to do this?
Well, and you've never had a camera this close to you, you know.
Not to my face, thankfully.
Right. So,
no, I've had it close to my hands and things like that.
But it was typically out here, right? Because you were at a desk, weren't you?
I'm not opposed to that. I'll walk right over to the camera. I'll look right at that guy, right? See that guy right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking right at him.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I need to stand more over here.
Okay.
Yeah, I see you.
Yeah.
You put some pants on. You got company here. Come on, man.
Yeah. There you go.
Is that when they close in a dun dun dun?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see me that close. I don't even want to see me that close.
A trick I learned, Chat, and I tell actors just starting out, is you get yourself a tripod, and you can use your cell phone, but let's say you're sitting at your computer, you just set up the tripod here. Oh, they can't see me. Here and here.
They can see you. I made the screen big so we can restart. But no, that's actually what's on the screen.
So you just set up, you say you're seated at your desk and you're, on your computer, you put the tripod here and you put the cell phone here, this close, and you just get used to, eventually you're not even paying attention to it, and that's exactly what you want. Is set it over here in your vision, and just, that it's there, but you're not paying attention. And so I'm like, that's all. You just got to get a camera pointed at you and forget it.
And get used to it.
Get used to it. Otherwise, as soon as it comes, people stiffen up, and I'm like, no, just set it up. You don't need to be recording anything, but your brain's gonna, what do I care? It's there, it's not bothering me, so there you go.
And in Newegg, there were 4 cameras on me.
Oh, and
so
lights,
I made a mistake.
Very hot lights, right?
They're hot, but the thing is that when you make a mistake, they have it from 4 different angles.
Yeah. One thing, my acting class here, a class that they offer I have not taken, but I want to here in the fall, is how to work with a teleprompter.
Yes.
I think that
a lot of times you've got to have a control that you yourself have to control. Because people will read like with a different cadence. Like if you listen to how people talk on the news, they don't talk like that in real life.
Right.
They'll say, coming to us from location is Mitch Morrison. Mitch, can you tell us more what's going out there? You're like, well, thank you, Carey. Yes, I'm here at the so-and-so school for the curious.
Yeah.
And today there was an event involving free pies.
Yeah.
And now back to you, right? There's a certain cadence.
Yeah.
And they sort of raise and lower their voices as the progression of the sentence. So when you're reading a teleprompter, if you've never read it before, you have to instantly get the rhythm of what's being said, because you don't want to be in this point of your sentence. And that was the end of the sentence, right? It doesn't sound right. So you've got to realize as a broadcaster, the rate of how fast you're talking that needs to be stabilized.
And writers have written that. You haven't written that. Somebody has written what you're saying, on there. So it may be the first time you're seeing that as it's scrolling up. So.
And so what can happen is you might stumble on a word. So you'd think if the teleprompter scrolled at a certain speed, you would be reading it at that. But no, it doesn't work like that. What happens is you might generally read at a certain speed, but the minute you stumble over a word, or you change the cadence of your voice, then it alters the speed. And so basically, in many cases, a broadcaster will have either something in a hand below the desk or sometimes controlled by foot that can slow the teleprompter down and then rewind and fast forward it. Most of the time, you just need to slow it down. Sometimes you're reading faster than the teleprompter. You get caught up and you're like, what am I going to do? I can't even see the next sentence yet. So you can't really have somebody else in charge of that. Usually the person reading the teleprompter, there's more going on behind the scenes than I think you might realize.
In the old days, the prompter was off to either the left or the right of the camera, so the person was not looking. But now they're so good that it's kind of via a mirror that's bouncing, so you are looking right into the lens and seeing, you know, what you're saying, but the viewer can't see that. So you appear that you are speaking directly into the camera, which is nice. So,
yeah, it's ingenious that they came up with that.
bad thing. So,
I have a video showing people how to get rid of the pride flag that's been showing up lately. And I didn't know it was going to be a pride flag, but I've got a lot of people who are anti-pride. And I didn't mean to appeal to that audience, but regardless, if you want something off your desktop, you should know how to do it. Right-click on the taskbar, we go to search, and we choose view search highlights, uncheck that, and then it gets rid of that forever, or whatever the latest thing is that they're...
Right.
Now, it does say Windows 11. This computer is ready for Windows 11.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to turn that off in the BIOS, the PTT feature.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which is Gigabyte's term for TPM.
Okay.
You got to go in the BIOS to turn off PTT to disable TPM. Did you get all that? And I think we got all the updates here.
Or your SOL.
Right. Well, or not, depending on your attitude towards Windows 11. In the chat room, the Greek contributes $10. Says, sweet build, Carey. As usual, Mitch, missed you a lot. You look good with the weight off.
25 pounds, the Greek.
I thought you said 20. Now it's 25? Did you lose 5 just now?
Yeah, it goes up.
When did I just step in?
Yeah.
My friend Ron Hillier joins us. He says it's 109 degrees Fahrenheit in Sun City, Arizona, where he is. We're getting ready for monsoon season. I can't wait. So monsoon season, for those not familiar with Arizona, tell us what that is.
We get haboobs, right?
Haboobs?
Haboobs.
Well, but those, so haboobs are like these huge walls of dust. But that's different from monsoon.
Monsoon typically is from the end of June through the end of August. Is that about right? So it's mostly July
Seems like
and August?
it's starting later.
Later, right.
Like it seemed like we were getting a lot of rain in October.
Yeah.
But when it rains in the desert, it doesn't rain often, but a lot comes down. It might only rain for
and you don't get like sprinkles and it's done in 10 minutes. When it gets ready.
It's not like when I'm in Michigan or in Oregon. You get this kind of misty drizzle, and it might come down a little heavier and then a little lighter, and then it might clear up and be a sunny day after that, right? No. In Arizona, it'll start with a trickle, but it won't usually stay like that very long. And then it just becomes a downpour. And even if that downpour seems like it lasts 10 or 15 minutes, the water is up over the sidewalks in the streets. And that's where I like having a car that's a little higher up off the ground than a sedan, because you can go down in some of these intersections after a rain a good foot or more. And then, of course, if cars are driving through it, it's sloshing up, and I don't want that in my car. It's also not good for your super hot engine to be hitting that cold water, or your muffler and your catalytic converter gets super hot, and they're definitely going to get soaked. And you definitely don't want the water going into the tailpipe so much so that it goes into the engine up through the exhaust. So when you go through water, you want to make sure you always have your foot on the gas, and you're going through nice and slow, so you're not bringing a big wave up over your engine where it's bringing in air. That'll suck in water, kill your motor. If you're in an electric car, it should all be sealed and you should be fine. But even still, you don't want to hit that water fast. Nice and slow, but you don't want to idle in it. You want to always have your foot on the gas, pushing air out that exhaust pipe so water won't get in. until you get out of that. And best of all, avoid getting in it. But anyway, you can imagine if we get a whole day of rain, if it can do that in just 20 minutes. And you know, speaking of this, by the way, I couldn't believe what I saw what's going on with Yellowstone. Holy cow. Holy, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're hiking here, we've got beautiful washes that normally in the summer are bone dry, and the
Yeah, like sometimes they turn them into parks where kids can play.
The javelinas kind of walk through them, but
that's usually not where the children play.
No, but you, Cat Stevens, no, when you walk in those and it starts raining, you better find a different way, because those things can become raging rivers fast. I'm amazed how fast.
Well, when it starts trickling down and you look up at the sky and you see the dark clouds coming, probably be a good time to start walking out of the wash.
For higher ground.
We've had people that go camping on the washes, and you know, some people have died. They got the water sweeps them up. All right, what I want to do is I'm going to change the resolution on this from 4K to 1080, and then we can install it in the case along with the power supply, and then we'll be done for today. That'll be today's build. And it's a nice, affordable, mid-range computer. If we wanted to make it a gaming computer, all we have to do is buy a video card. All we got to do is spend another $400, and this would be a decent gaming machine. You don't really, most games don't need more than an i5 anyway. And I usually get rid of these couple of icons down here. Okay. This one I unpin, and this one I unpin, keeping in mind the customers can rearrange that.
Right.
But I have to set them up in a way that I want to avoid support calls, and a lot of times customers will, how do I get rid of this? So I've learned over time, based on feedback from my customers, that fewer people ask how to put it back than are asking how to get rid of it. So that's just how I do it.
Yep.
I don't just make this stuff up. It's just a reaction to customer response, trying to avoid the customer needing to call me for any reason. Not that I don't want to talk to them. I'm just trying to help new customers so I can continue to help save people money, help save people time, and make a profit for myself where I'm not struggling to make ends meet. So that is the reason for all that. And hobbyists and enthusiasts who sit at home and build their own stuff, they don't have to deal with any of that. And most YouTube channels are hobbyists and enthusiasts, and they don't discuss this. So I just want to present it out there, because if you want to become a technician, if you're thinking about it, these are things to consider. It's not, there are differences between what you do for yourself and when somebody pays you to do it. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to turn off the power supply and unplug it from power. We're going to unplug the HDMI and the Ethernet cable, and we're going to unplug the power connectors so that the motherboard is free and clear, including the power switch, whoopsie, right here, which we can put back in that drawer. And we will set this aside. Just put this one over there. Do me a favor, put that back down where it was, just to temporarily get it out of our way. And I'm going to grab a brand new Corsair 200R case. Ta-da! Got our documentation. We know that's going to go in this box. Would you hand me my red driver, little red driver?
The electric?
Yes, please. You'll notice I have a different bit on it now. This bit fits so much better. It's about an inch shorter though, which kind of bums me out. But I'll tell you what, it fits so well into these basic computer screws, these common ones. Sometimes I have to pull it off with my hand. Not on these thumb screws, but it does seem to seat better.
So it's just about an inch shorter compared to the other one.
And it's got this blue tape on it, which prevents any grounding out by mistake if you're working on electronics.
Yep.
Although when we have everything unplugged, that shouldn't be an issue anyway. But I'm just going to set those there for now. In fact, no, you know what? I'm going to take these, because I have so many 200Rs, and I'm going to put them in this motherboard box so I know.
Okay.
Not that it matters, but that's just my OCD. Pull that panel off. And we'll pull this panel off. These are different panels. The one with the holes is going to go on this side here, where you have access to the board. All right, so let's put the motherboard in. We'll start with the I/O shield. And that's going to go in.
I've always struggled with these. I don't know. It's the finesse. You seem to clickety, clickety, click, and it just
How many systems have you done?
bugs me. 4 or 5.
How many have I done?
4,000. 400. No, about 4,000.
About
Yeah.
30,000,
Yeah,
20
so-
to 30,000.
yeah.
So, when you do something
Yeah.
over and over, you're going to get better at
Yeah.
it, right? You just don't be down on yourself. You haven't done it many times, and if you're not a technician, why would you be? Now, remember, Gigabyte boards always have that extra mounting hole that I like to put a standoff
Oh,
in.
yeah. I know.
Also, the Corsair 200R, all of the mounting hardware right here. We'll set that aside. You got one of those for me?
One of the nubbins? Oh, yeah, you need the snips.
No, I already snipped
Oh.
them. Like one day I was bored and I just went through the bag and I pre-snipped a little tab off of them.
Well, it's good to have a hobby. All right.
Well,
Yeah.
I was in the mood to cut something up.
There you go.
All right, we'll set this down like so. And I just want to get this fan cable out of the way. And then I always pick up the motherboard by the heat sink. I don't have to worry about any electrostatic discharge, which again means I don't have to worry about wearing an electrostatic strap because I don't touch anything that static could damage. I can static shock this heatsink all day long. It won't hurt nothing, but maybe the tips of my fingers. Oh, I got to get the wireless dongle out of there.
And with this board, is it with the board installed? Do you have the trouble with the one CPU power cable up here in the upper right? Remember how you said it?
Well, normally when we're using the bigger heatsink from side,
that's right.
but with
This
the
one's
smaller
tiny.
heatsink,
Yeah.
it should be no problem.
Yeah, that's
another benefit I hadn't thought about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this box, we've got all of our mounting hardware. Every case comes with a box or a bag of mounting hardware that is specific to that case. It's not necessarily interchangeable. Some of them might be. Some of the screws might work from case to case. Some won't. So for this board, I know I need the coarse thread screws. I need my glaces. And that's the only bag of screws we need on this build. The finer thread screws would be used for the installation of DVD drives or 2.5-inch hard drives. These screws I'm using for the motherboard would also be used for installing 3.5-inch drives. Although one of the features I love about the 200R is you can hold up to 4 3.5-inch and 4 2.5-inch drives, and they click in. You don't have to put any screws in.
Toolless.
Absolutely toolless. Now, normally I don't tighten these up all the way, but I'm feeling bold today, and I'm probably going to regret it. And we're going to put 2 screws on the bottom, 2 screws on the top, and only 1 screw goes in the middle. Even though the middle has 3 holes, we put the plastic tab in the far hole because I've yet to see a case that supports that. In the middle hole of the middle row, there's a little peg that sticks up on the 200R that helps keep the board in position while you tighten down the other mounting points to lock it into place. So it's a total of 5 screws only. Now a full-size ATX board generally takes 9. So this is a little bit smaller. Well, it's still considered a full, it's still ATX. It's not a full-size ATX. It's not quite as wide as some other ATX designs. And since this system may be upgraded in the future, we always keep the screws together in the motherboard box. What happened here? I got a runner. So the customer will get all these. You know, Dell doesn't do that for you. HP doesn't do that for you. You want to upgrade, you're on your own. Sometimes it may give you a few extra screws that are tightened inside of the case. We'll just put all that in there and keep everything together. Okay, so now everybody wants to see what that looks like. there's what it looks like installed. What a difference that heatsink makes size-wise. I'm not accustomed to seeing anything that small. And then I will start to hook up our front port umbilicals. Actually, what I want to do is put the power supply in now. So do me a favor and grab that power supply. Let's do that one next. Thank you. Now, because I've already taken this out of the box, I think they opened this up like 2 weeks ago. There should be a little baggie of power supply screws in that first drawer. Not that I can't use the same screws I just used, but the power supply, the screws that come with the power supply, they're a little bit beefier, and I prefer to use them, but you don't have to. And then I'll need the red driver, please. Red driver, red driver.
You know, you were talking about glasses, and I went to my eye doctor just for an annual exam, and I told him how much I really can't stand glasses. And he said, well, I can give you 20/20 vision. And I'm like, well, how? I can't do LASIK because I got an astigmatism. He said, well, no. You're an old man. Eventually you're going to get cataracts, so I'll just beat them to the punch, and I'll just put new lenses over both eyes. Yeah, that'll give you 20/20 vision, and you'll never get cataracts. And I'm like, okay, obviously that won't be covered under my insurance, so give me the price. He said, it's just $5,000 an eye.
An eye?
Yeah, so he's like, just 10 grand. I'm like, you've opened my
you opened
my eyes quite a bit. So
I've noticed, just to change the subject,
okay,
these screws are coming loose now, so I'll make it a point to tighten them up so they don't come loose when I ship the computer and there's something rattling around in there. I don't know when they started doing this, but I don't know why. Every one of these is loose on all the 200Rs.
Okay.
But yeah, so the thing about that is if you search here on YouTube for cataract removal surgery, they show you how it's done. And if you see how it's done, I mean, once I saw it, I'm like, no.
Right.
Oh, man, that just looks very invasive to the eyeball.
Well, the one thing is, I said, are you almost knocked out? And he's like, yeah, well, we can't knock you out, but he's like, we put you to where you're pretty out, because I said, yeah, I can't see some machine coming down. What do you need?
A flashlight.
Flashlight.
You can't see, you don't want to see a needle coming towards your eye.
But, 10 grand. And I said, plus then I'm still going to need cheaters for up close. He's like, well, yeah, but you'll have 20/20. You'll never have to wear glasses. I'm like, yeah, but.
Well, you will have to wear glasses. But you will.
So I'm like,
Sounds like he's just trying to sell.
Yeah, he really wanted that sale.
Did you say if I pay you cash, would you discount it?
Yeah.
I would. I'd say, all right, tell you what, if I give you, what's 10% off?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to use a credit card that's going to give me cash back on something like that. Put it on Discover or something where you get a little.
Yeah.
Most of the time, cash back is meaningless on, because most purchases are pretty small.
Because I've just never really gotten used to my contacts because I don't wear them all the time. So.
Well, I had just started experimenting with contacts when the whole pandemic thing happened, and it just kind of like, who am I putting them in for anymore? It's like cologne and perfume. Where are you wearing this? Where are you going? Who are you going to smell good for? So it kind of changed my priorities a little bit. Vanity was less important when I'm not going anywhere.
Did you have trouble putting them in and taking them out? Or
I did. I was getting better at it. Like anything else, man. You just got to keep doing it over and over and over.
It took me a while.
Oh, but, I was not comfortable putting my finger in my eye.
Anything. Your head naturally wants to go back as you're putting that in. But
my eyelid wants to close when it sees a finger coming. It doesn't want my finger in there. It's like, what are you doing, man? Taking them out was always easier, though. Yeah. For some reason, I could stick my finger in my eyeball when there's a contact lens, and I feel the contact lens, not the eyeball.
Right.
And that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a hell of a psychology to that if you're not raised with it and it's not been introduced to you when you're young.
But I'm not even taking any contact lenses with me. I got these glasses, an extra pair in case these break, and then prescription sunglasses, and that's.
Well, they likely have better medical facilities and care at cheaper prices there than we have here.
I am bringing my eyeglass prescription though, because yeah, I'll bet I can get a pair of prescription glasses.
They could probably give you a new prescription and glasses, and
for $50
probably get you the ready the same day.
Right.
Especially if you're going to the Philippines, they have some amazing medical care there, and it's much, much cheaper than what we're paying in the U.S. And it's not like I think people imagine it as like being old technology, but they'll have stuff. Some American hospitals don't even have some of this high technology they use. You can do some searching here on YouTube to learn more about that, because
Can I pull it?
Morgan Spurlock did a thing for CNN. Yeah, please pull it
More? Is that?
until it's tight. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is the one we were worried about, right?
Yeah.
But with that heatsink being as small as it is, I can totally reach in here with no problem. And just plug that bad boy.
And Chad, I saw a nice video of this guy getting a custom-made suit in Vietnam in this store that I wrote down and the city that he was in. And
On YouTube, or?
Yeah, on YouTube. And he got a pair of pants, a vest, and a jacket for $200 US. So I'm like, sweet. And they took like 40 different measurements. So when he tried it on, it just fit great.
Yeah, but if you keep losing weight, how long is that going to fit?
Yeah.
You're going to look like David Byrne from Talking Heads. Or you're going to look like that guy, Review Bra, what's his name? Report of the Week guy.
Oh, yeah.
Be swimming in your suit.
Yeah. Food report. Yeah.
That guy likes to wear suits that are too big for him. And
Right.
he doesn't have any
Right.
But
I read
muscle.
about that. But I read about that kid. He's only 24 or 25 years old,
And he's richer than both of us.
and he's got 2.5 million
Oh my God.
viewers or something. And he does one or two of those food reviews of the week
I could get paid to
Yeah,
eat.
To eat.
Man, I got to rethink my whole YouTube strategy. I'm working and spending way too much. I'm just putting the system fan on.
Okay.
I will have to take that back off to put some nylon zip ties on it
Okay,
later.
yeah.
But that should be enough right there to fire it
Shazam.
up and make sure everything works. And then that would be the end of this video. So if you have any technical questions for us while we're setting this up for what should be the final test, please ask in the chat, and
So
we'll
then-
wrap up by,
So then you're going to need the dongle back.
I will.
Yeah.
And then we will, address any questions you have, and we're going to say goodbye, and we'll wish Mitch bon voyage,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll get some pictures or some videos
Yeah.
while you're away. And if you send me some, he always says he will, and then he never does. But if he sends me some,
Yeah.
I'll share them with you guys when I get them. I'll even give you access to Google Drive. You can upload videos.
Nice.
All right, let's fire it up. Go ahead and hit the power button for me, and I will switch over to the HDMI input. There we go. Is it not turning on? I probably didn't hit the switch on the power supply, right? How about now? Got a green light?
No.
Nothing?
Am I hitting the right button?
No, that's reset.
Oh.
Hey, it helps if you have the power on the power supply turned on.
And I was wearing my glasses. All right.
And if you are wearing glasses, that's the scary part.
Yeah.
All right, as you can see, everything's going to run exactly as it did outside of the case. And that's all there is to it, apart from some cable management. I normally do not hook up the front fans unless there's a discrete graphics card that needs air to blow over it. Otherwise, it's just another thing bringing in dust and dirt, and will eventually create noise, which then relates to a support call over a fan that's not even necessary. And let's take a look at the chat. We'll take your final questions. We're going to wrap things up today. I told you I like to do between 2 and 3 hours. We're right at 2 hours and 30 minutes. So
Solo, where's Mitch going? I'm going to Singapore, then in Malaysia, a city called Kuala Lumpur for 4 or 5 days, and then over to the Philippines for a month, and then Vietnam for a month. So I'll be back the end of August.
I wish I could leave here in August. This is the worst time to be in Phoenix. It gets, you know, super high temps like we have now, only with super high humidity. Hence monsoon season.
Yep.
But yeah, we're supposed to be getting a ton of rain. And I talked about in the news how people are picking up sandbags, but I don't know when. Like, everything looks right. There's no hint that there's any rain coming.
Usually in the summer, it's, you know, blue sky, no clouds. Blue sky, no clouds. It's pretty boring. So when I was up at my brother's in Vail, it was just so nice to see clouds in the sky. It's
right?
Just I'm like, yeah, because here we don't see them. So.
Bike Man wants to know, Carey, is it recommended to turn on core isolation and device security section of Windows security? No. I've never had to turn that on in my entire career. You're going to hear a lot of fear-mongering and stuff like that from security researchers. I don't know of anything out in the wild that would help save you from an actual threat. I only know about theoretical threats that helps. When it becomes critical, it will be turned on by Windows updates automatically. We cannot rely on customers to protect themselves. And so when that is determined to be required, it will happen. Only people that are using their computers in an unusual way that might benefit from that. But there's nothing I can really talk to those people because they might even be at a higher level technically than I am. So I would answer your question, I would say no.
Starshine. Mitch, are you going to be bringing back any tech? No. With any luck, a Vietnamese wife. Twins. All right. Yeah, not in this life. All right. Oh, Mitch, knock, knock. Is it time for corny joke of the day?
Oh, no.
Okay.
That's from Jason H88
right.
with a $2 contribution. Thank
All
you,
right.
Jason.
Here we go.
Or not.
It's time for the corny joke of the day.
Here, let me get rid of HDMI screen there.
Okay. What did the grass say to the lawnmower?
What did the grass say to the lawnmower?
A little off the top, please.
Oh. What am I doing?
Yeah, you asked for it. All right.
John Gardner said he's getting cataract surgery in August. Yeah, but he ain't gonna pay 10 grand for it.
No, if it gets to the point your vision, yeah, your insurance will pay for it. So, but I don't know. Maybe one more acting job and I'll think about it because I just dislike glasses and the contact lenses. I wear them and I just don't like them. So.
Charles M says, Carey, why does Microsoft need TPM being on the motherboard to be able to upgrade to Windows 11? I have no TPM on my motherboard. Well, it's not on the motherboard. It's usually on your CPU. Anything that's 6th or 7th gen Intel or newer, and anything after the original Zen processors, all have built-in TPMs on the chips. It's required for security. The internet is getting to be a very dangerous place. People are constantly losing their identity, they're losing money from their bank accounts, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so Microsoft is trying to head off some of that theft and trickery that many thousands, tens of thousands of bad guys are utilizing to attack people. A lot of these threats come from countries that are not allies with the United States, and so they don't have to obey any United States laws, and there's really no repercussions for them because their country, you think Russia cares if Russians are hacking United States citizens and bilking them for hundreds of millions or billions of dollars? They don't care. They celebrate it. So because the internet is worldwide, it's a very dangerous place. The threats keep increasing. They keep getting more and more clever. The requirement there is for security, and it's like, why do I have to get a more advanced weapon than my wooden spear? I've got a sharpened wooden spear. Why can't I go into battle with that? Well, if this was 200 BC, I suppose that'd be adequate, but advancements have come, and your enemies are going to be using laser guided missiles and drones. I would suggest you not enter the battlefield with just a sharpened stick. It should be pretty obvious. That analogy is about dead on to what it's like to go out onto the battlefield of the internet with anonymous enemies worldwide who could be attacking you and you don't even know it's happening. If you want to get off the internet, you don't have to worry about this stuff. Patrick Manny said he had cataract surgery about 4 years ago. Well, it appears to be a success because I don't see any typos.
Okay. Does it give you 20/20? It's supposed to. I guess it's basically brand new lenses on your eyes.
Michael Dane says, Confucius say man drunk in cemetery make grave mistakes. Jason says he's got a joke for you, Mitch. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
There's a long delay.
Yeah. 40 seconds, yeah.
A little old lady.
A little old lady who? Probably the punch has to do something with yodeling. A little old lady who?
Patrick, with his cataract surgery, says he doesn't need glasses for distance, only for reading and computer. So it's kind of the same thing as what you were talking about.
So.
Robert Cross contributes €2. Thank you, Robert. Daniel Bird said he bought a dozen bees yesterday, but he got the 13th one free. It was a freebie. Why can't you tell jokes like that?
Yeah, I'll give him that. That was a lot better, yeah.
So anyway, so Jason had said knock knock.
Who's there?
Little old lady.
A little old lady who?
He says, I didn't know you could yodel.
I figured that
Took us a while to get there.
Yeah, I figured that was a punchline.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Richard Palmentier says he's got glaucoma and checks in with the doctor every 3 months. Legendary Cuber says, Carey, would you have any recommendations for an SSD as I'm looking to upgrade mine? You know, look, if we're talking about an NVMe SSD, get the largest capacity you can afford to get. Samsung is always my first choice. Those 2 terabyte Samsung 970 Pros are still a good deal. They're about 194. Wait a couple of days, it'll probably drop back to 189. It seems to be, price has been fluctuating, even went up to 210. Since we know it sold at 189 before, it'll be 189 again, I'm sure. But even at 194, it's $5.
Yeah,
you don't have to wait.
Carey put one of those in my black desktop, and again, it's not even a quarter full, but it's just screamingly fast, and it's nice to have that extra storage. So yeah, the Samsung 2 terabyte NVMe is the way to go if your budget will stretch.
Yes, and of course you can do Gen 4. It's going to cost you quite a bit more for a little more performance if your motherboard supports it. And whether or not you'd notice it depends on how you use the computer. 95% of people will never notice the difference. And then Gen 5 is coming out, which will double then the speed of Gen 4. We'll be looking at 12,000, 15,000 megabytes per second. So that's always the way of things. Any solid state drive you buy, they're all good now. If you buy from a well-known brand, you'll likely get much better support should you need it. You save money when you get an off-brand, something, you know, from China, it's probably going to be fine. But if you run into a problem, you may find it next to zero support, and that's just how Microsoft reduces the cost of Windows to OEMs, so Microsoft doesn't have to support it. These companies who don't have to support their stuff, they're going to be more aggressively priced. So you do get what you pay for. I like SanDisk, I like Samsung, I like Intel, I like Western Digital, I like Sabrent, Kingston, Crucial, PNY, I think are all good. On the budget side of things, companies like Team, AData. I've never, I tried to get support from Team once and it was just not worth my time. AData, I've never tried to get support, but ADATA's been around a lot longer. I still have flash drives from years ago from ADATA that still work today. I'm forgetting one. Mushkin, which is not they're a major name, Mushkin. They have a brand called Helix. And I'm talking about all NVMe drives. They generally all have 5-year warranties, I think. So, yeah, the more you can spend, the bigger the capacity, the faster the drive is. So any of those, at the end of the day, they'll probably all be just fine, and you'd be unlikely to ever have a problem anyway. Randy wants to know if there's such a thing as NVMe RAID. Yes, we've covered it at least twice on this channel over the last couple of years. The problem with NVMe RAID on Gen 3 is there weren't enough channels. So you could just keep adding more drives, but your speed would go down because you've already saturated it with one drive. Then you get into Gen 4 and more advanced processors like Generation 11 and 12 processors that give you more PCIe lanes. Then you can really start seeing some benefits, but it does make working on the drive much harder. So if one day your system's not bootable, you'll have to make a special recovery disk that has the RAID drivers where you won't be able to see the data and you won't be able to correct the drive. And it's really a hassle. If you go back a couple of years when I did the original Threadripper build, of course that could accommodate NVMe RAID with all the PCIe lanes. And I used 3 Samsung 960s, I think they were, 512s, in a RAID 5 configuration. And we're getting speeds that Gen 5 single NVMe drives are going to exceed. Just like putting 2 graphics cards in SLI mode. They don't do that anymore because a single graphics card these days is faster. So I find that NVMe RAID is usually very, very obsolete quickly, and it can make maintenance and just dealing with the computer far more hassle, and the amount of speed you get back results in real world performance of milliseconds. I mean, how long does your computer take to boot? If your computer takes 2 minutes to boot, and we can cut that time by 50%, that saves a whole minute. But if your computer's booting in 15 seconds, and we cut that in half to 7 seconds, you only save 7 seconds. But if your computer's booting in 7 seconds, and we can cut that in half to 3.5, you start eventually getting to a point of such diminishing returns that it's no longer even worth considering, because it's obvious that the performance difference will result in literally milliseconds. So unless you are a very demanding user and you have a very unlimited budget and you have the expertise to maintain that system, especially when things go wrong, and any other system you could fix in 5 minutes, this one's going to be far more complex if the RAID drive is your boot drive. So my suggestion is avoid RAID. If you want to use RAID on a Synology NAS or something, by all means, please do. But on a desktop computer, it makes maintenance difficult. The returns you get are going to be in real world time, milliseconds. You'd have to be an awfully demanding user with some extraordinary input-output demands to benefit from that. But thank you for the question. Don Allen, the $10 contribution, says, nice to see Mitch in the room. That's going to get a cardboard cutout and stick you on the corner.
Yeah. Thank you, Don.
Thanks for the contribution.
Did you check your phone for some Amazon gift cards? Yeah.
Probably should do that. Let's see if I've missed anything. Barry Klein sent an Amazon gift card. He says, nice to see you got the band back together for a reunion show. Hello, Carey and Mitch. And there's a $20 Amazon gift card. And that's again from Barry Klein. Don Dry from Raleigh, North Carolina. He says, happy Father's Day. Good to see the two of you together again one more time. Here's a $10 Amazon gift card. Ronald Barnesh, Ron's in the chat room there. He contributes a $10 Amazon gift card. $11.59 comes in from Colin Longstaff via PayPal. Thanks, Colin. Don't see a message there. Colin watches us in the United Kingdom. And that catches us up. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap it up.
I'll send little videos. I'm going to call myself the temperamental tourist. I think that'll be good. So,
Well, I hope you do, or,
Yep.
you know, I've seen you, sometimes you go and you post a couple things to Facebook,
yeah,
and those are usually the same ones you share with me, and I'm like, hey, I could have just pulled that off Facebook.
right.
It's always good to
Yeah.
live vicariously through your adventures.
Yeah. It's a trip of a lifetime, I guess. So,
I was trying to make it so we could see a little better.
although getting there, they say getting there is half the battle. No, getting there is the nightmare. So, I don't know how much.
Yeah, don't envy that.
Yeah, I don't know how much jet lag. I'm going to try to, Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to try to sleep on Singapore time if I can to try to, which probably means sleeping during the day and staying awake probably all night to try to get on their time. I think that'll help a little bit.
Well, at least you're there 2 months, though.
Yeah.
That gives you
Yeah.
plenty of time.
Yeah, so.
Solo says you should have the Mitch Travel Channel. You'll be like, what's that guy on PBS? What's his name? Rick Steves?
Yeah.
Charles says, by the way, in Sweden, the Father's Day will be in the fall, 13th of November. Huh. How do you install Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer? You don't install it. It's an executable application. You simply download it and execute it. It's that simple, and there's no installation, nothing to install or uninstall. And if you search my channel for those words, you'll find videos demonstrating that as well. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you to everybody who has contributed. Of course, in the Super Chats, we've got Jason H. and Robert Cross and Don Allen. And, oh, I missed a couple. Planet Cryos contributed $5. He says, hey, Mitch is in the house. Oh, and hi, Carey. Can't stay, but sending love. Well, hopefully he'll play back later and see he's got a shout out. And Zdravko Frančević has become a member. Right on, Zdravko. And Sto, S-T-O, became a member. Says, love the Carey and Mitch show. I like how he got the name Carey first.
Yeah.
And thanks again to the Greek and Mike Visions, Craig Casabona, Wilhelm Gordon, Michael Dane, Yates Networks became a member today, Ian Gooch, Roy Starman, and of course our good friend in Scotland, Peter Lycock, although I think we have many good friends in Scotland. Thank you so much for showing the love, continue to support the channel. And
with any luck, I'll see you guys in September with stories.
well, hopefully we'll see you with a different background.
Stories to regale you by, and so
I can't wait.
and probably gain the 20 pounds back with any luck, eating that nice food.
With any luck?
Yeah,
I thought you wanted to lose the weight.
I did, but not
Now that you've lost it, now you're nervous, you want to put it back on?
Now I'm so thin, I got to rent a shadow. So, so
Does that pay well?
yeah.
I guess I'm not big enough to be somebody's shadow.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks again for watching. All the parts that we used in today's video are in the video notes below the video, along with links to those discounted Windows and Office legitimate and legal license keys, along with my Amazon shop. All the tools and equipment you see me use has all been purchased from Amazon. If you go to my Amazon page, you'll see I have a little Amazon store, and it's got 3 different stores. One of them is called Equipment and Tools that I use. There's about 140 items in there, including those little suction cups you saw me use earlier, many of the screwdrivers and tools that are not only in this video, but in all the other videos. And what else is in those notes? Oh, links to the Windows 10 Optimizer and the Windows 10 Netfix tool that I have worked and collaborated with the folks over at D7X Tech to develop the tool. It has not been tested with Windows 11. That's why it's called a Windows 10. That's why the name Windows 10 is in the title, not just Windows. And we'll probably update them accordingly when the time is right, but it's probably a year out. Not saying they don't work with Windows 11, but I don't know that they really benefit anything in Windows 11. I have to do the testing. For a $5 tool, I'll figure out some time. What is it, $5 or $8? It's cheap. And there's no limit on how many times you can use it or how many machines you can use it on. I want you guys to use it. So all I got to do is show a little love back, and you can use it as much as you want. It never expires. Well, I suppose when Windows 10 is end of life, we're not going to support it anymore, but it'll still technically work. All right. Well, hey, have a good trip. I'm looking forward to seeing some photos.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks to everybody for the contributions and those Amazon gift cards. We appreciate you, and we will look forward to seeing you. I hope I'll be back on Monday. That's my intent. And then as I hear from Mitch with updates, I'll share them with you guys. I don't think we'll hear anything until the end of the week. But thank you again for watching. We'll see you all again very, very soon. And until then,
Bye for now.